Hey everyone, we've updated our channel name from Chinese Novel Audio Wave to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Nothing else will be changing. We're still uploading a new video every day, bringing you the best Chinese novel audiobooks. Let's dive into today's story. Chapter 61. Who could be more handsome than our brother? Hey, everyone, what's up? Born in 2006, dreaming of being a rap leader, so pretty, Sajiji. Every day, it's all about style. A boy who loves to rap, creativity is his ace, he can rap anytime, anywhere, the world is his stage. Your attention is my fuel. Hello, everyone. I am your dearest Chen baby. Song, Z, Chen. 1 + 1 is cutie, 2 + 2 is cutie, 3 + 3 is also cutie. Hello, everyone. I am your little cutie, Wang Yitao. Hello, everyone. I'm rookie actress Su Xingchen. I've only acted in a short drama so far, but I'll keep working hard. Finally, after 2 complete disasters, a somewhat normal introduction came from a sweet-faced young woman. She had a pure and innocent look, her big eyes still carrying the naive foolishness of a fresh college graduate. After speaking, she even playfully waved a little fist. Director Zhang nodded in approval. This young actress had a good image and decent presence, worth giving more screen time. Hello, everyone. I am your familiar Wang Lulu. My dear Lu Baos, good evening. My new album releases next week, make sure to listen. Wang Lulu was a washed-up singer, a mother of 2. She had joined the show hoping to regain some popularity. Finally, it was Kai Yifan's turn. Yo, everyone, I'm Xiao Fan. With just one sentence, the previously calm chat exploded. Ah, Fan Ji is so handsome. Yi Fan, forever outstanding. Why waste time on others? Just focus on my brother. Does the production team not understand who the biggest star is? OMG, Fan Bao's schedule is packed, and he still came for an outdoor show. So exhausting. Mommy feels heartbroken. Seeing the barrage of comments, Director Zhang felt slightly better. Kai Yifan was insufferable, but he was undeniably good-looking and had real popularity. Spending 3 million to bring him onto the show had been worth it. You know, I'm super handsome. I play basketball, super handsome. I hike, also super handsome. Kai Yifan barely said anything. Instead, he struck over 10 different poses. And yet, the chat became even wilder. The flood of comments blurred into an unreadable mess. When Kai Yifan finished, the director, realizing the mystery guest still hadn't arrived, quickly signaled him to stall for time. Kai Yifan saw the director's expectant look and scoffed inwardly. He, the biggest celebrity here, had already arrived, so why should he wait for some no-name mystery guest? And why should he even help cover for them? He smirked and said deliberately, I heard there's a mystery guest tonight. Someone about my age, right? I wonder if they can be as handsome as me. But if we're all waiting here for them, they must be super amazing. Director Zhang's face turned green. This idiot, instead of changing the subject, he's making things worse. Sure enough, the chat went into another frenzy. Of course, my brother is the handsomest. Mystery guest. Not worthy of making my fan GE wait. How is the production team allowing a late guest? Kick them out. OMG, such a diva. So arrogant. Ahaha, well, if we're talking about looks, Fan GE is obviously the most handsome. Su Xingchen jumped in, trying to salvage the situation. But since they're a mystery guest, they should make a grand entrance and keep the audience excited, right? She thought this would spark discussion about the mystery guest's identity, something to buy time. But no one responded. She was left awkwardly hanging in silence. Even Kai Yifan, whom she had just complimented, acted as if he hadn't heard her, offering not even a glance. Su Xingchen pursed her lips. Her face turned scarlet, her ears burning. Neither stepping forward nor retreating felt right, it was like being covered in crawling ants. At that moment, excuse me, is this the Daring Adventure production team? A clear yet oddly stupid-sounding voice echoed from the cliffside behind them. Everyone turned. The cameraman immediately swung his camera toward the new arrival. Under the spotlight, a gleaming bald head entered their view. The light reflected off his shiny scalp, nearly blinding them. A young man stood at the edge of the cliff, leaning slightly on a cane, his face lit with a gentle smile. The wind ruffled the collar of his hiking jacket, casting a shadow on one side of his face. The exposed side seemed to glow with a divine radiance, giving the illusion of an enlightened monk. The shadowed side, however, carried an unsettling charm, like a bottomless abyss, luring people in. The illusions faded in an instant, leaving behind only one thought in everyone's minds. Handsome. Too damn handsome. How could a man look this good? Director Zhang stared at Chen Huaian. His mind wasn't focused on how Chen Huaian had even climbed up a cliff, nor on why he had appeared there in the first place. His only thought was, this is it. This is my golden opportunity to rise from a small-time director to a major one. He had to hold on to this man. This was the future of top-tier viral content. Kai Yifan. He was nothing. Sorry, director. I cut it too close, Chen Huaian said, glancing at his watch. He had tried his best but still only arrived at exactly 9 p.m. That probably caused the crew some trouble, right? That was not acceptable. Director Zhang didn't care at all. Instead, he hurried forward in 3 large strides, grabbing Chen Huaian's hands with an eager smile. It's fine, it's fine. Chen Huaian, right, no problem at all, it's great that you're here. Then, as if he had just realized something, his expression turned deadly serious. He gave a solemn nod and said in a low, reverent voice. Chen Huaian, you, my friend, are unbelievably, impossibly, ridiculously good-looking. Chapter 62. What are you trying to do? Everyone was utterly mesmerized by Chen Huaian's beauty. Several makeup artists in the crew stared blankly at him, their professional instincts kicking in. They worked with celebrities daily and knew better than anyone how much adjustments went into those faces: plastic surgery, contouring, strategic lighting. Many stars looked like entirely different people before makeup. But this guy, flawless. Rosy lips, white teeth, and though his complexion was a bit pale, it only added to a natural, serene, zen-like aura. The most shocking part, he wasn't even wearing makeup. A pure, naturally perfect face. And he was bald. If he had hair, how godly would he look? Am I really that handsome? Even Chen Huaian, slow as he could sometimes be, felt something was off. He had always considered himself moderately handsome. Sure, he had a noticeable edge over regular people, but if he were truly drop-dead gorgeous, wouldn't he have had a girlfriend by now? But now, with the program director personally confirming it, things were different. People in the industry were practically half scouts. They had a keen sense for good-looking, camera-ready faces. If they said he was handsome, then he really was. Could my potential activation have improved my looks? Chen Huaian fell into deep thought. Maybe vampires were just people who had mastered cancer cell mutations. That would explain why they were all ridiculously good-looking. Too bad vampires didn't exist. Otherwise, he'd definitely go and exchange notes on cancer cell management. Who knew, maybe then he wouldn't have to die. Perfectly handsome. Absolute god-tier visuals, Director Zhang said as he turned the live chat toward Chen Huaian. The chat, which moments ago had been singing praises for Kai Yifan, had completely flipped. Ah, the mystery guest is too handsome. Oh my god, I'm a sinner, but he really is hotter than Fan Ge. I'm sorry, baby, mommy shouldn't have been mad at you for being late, take as long as you want next time. Does anyone know his name? Is he a celebrity? How come I don't recognize him? Wait, he looks kinda familiar. Chen Huaian took it all in and finally accepted reality. Looks like I really am that handsome. This time, it was a statement, not a question. Director Zhang's eyes glowed like he had struck gold. Alright, now that our mystery guest is here, let's continue. Xiao Chen, why don't you introduce yourself? Kai Yifan had been watching quietly all this time. And he could feel it, he was no longer the center of attention. Him, Kai Yifan, the star of the show, now pushed to the sidelines. Unacceptable. He noticed Chen Huaian's braced right leg and the cane tucked under his arm. Without thinking, he blurted out. Director Zhang, my schedule is packed, I barely get 2 hours of sleep a night. I had to squeeze out time to come here. And we're night hiking, right? If we bring a disabled guy along, won't we be hiking until tomorrow afternoon? I don't mean to look down on disabled people, but shouldn't someone in his condition be resting at home instead of slowing down a variety show? The moment he finished speaking, he felt sure of how the chat would react. They'd feel sorry for him, pitying his exhausting schedule. Then, they'd slam the production team for forcing a cheap publicity stunt. No matter how handsome this guy was, what did it matter? Kai Yifan's fanbase was unbeatable. Except, that's not what happened. Silence. Every single person looked at Kai Yifan in shock and outrage. Even the live chat froze for a moment. Only Chen Huaian remained calm. He even looked at Kai Yifan with the kindly patience of an elderly monk. Then, he smiled gently. You're absolutely right, brother. A disabled guy like me would only hold everyone back. But I didn't want to miss this opportunity. Because this might be my only chance to reach the top of Tianmen Mountain in this lifetime. He turned to face the camera. He bowed slightly. Then, he flashed an effortless, carefree smile. My name is Chen Huaian. A late-stage bone cancer patient, with my life in its final countdown. I hope that in these dying embers of my existence, I can still burn brightly. To those watching, thank you for sharing this moment with me. Bearing witness to my journey. I am on my way. Dead silence. The only sound was the wind rushing through the mountain pass. Then, sniffles. A few makeup artists wiped away tears. Su Xingchen's eyes were red. She looked at Chen Huaian with pure maternal tenderness. Kai Yifan. His mouth hung open. A cold sweat ran down his back. Bro, what are you trying to do? Meanwhile, in Kai Yifan's DMs. Agent? Xiao Fan, are you trying to kill yourself? You're done for. Your competitors are all roasting you alive. They're saying you mock disabled and terminally ill people. Do you even have basic human compassion? What were you thinking saying those words just now? The public persona we built for you, you destroyed it in one sentence. Agent. Find an opportunity to apologize to Chen Huaian. And it has to be sincere. The first few messages, Kai Yifan could barely tolerate. But the last line, his blood boiled. Apologize. To a nobody, he was the future megastar. Soon, A-list actors would share the screen with him. Even at his company, third-tier actors called him senior, and top celebrities gave him face. And now, his agent wanted him to bow his head to a cripple. He furiously slammed his response. Why the hell should I? He's just a regular person. And I'm a future superstar. I don't care what they say, I won't apologize to some cripple. He hit send. Then, he shut off his phone. He didn't check the live chat. He already knew his fanbase would have his back. They could twist white into black, flip haters into fans. If he played the victim, they'd instantly attack Chen Huaian's page. But, as they continued hiking, Kai Yifan noticed something strange. Despite the physical exertion, despite the 2 female guests and 2 other young male celebs starting to sweat, Chen Huaian looked completely fine. No sweat, no labored breathing. Apart from his slightly limping gait, he didn't seem like a disabled person at all. A suspicion formed in his mind. Is this guy faking it? Was this all an act? Some productions did pull stunts like this, hiring people with special conditions for publicity. But someone this handsome, that would be hard to come by. If Chen Huaian was actually just a normal person acting pitiful, then he, Kai Yifan, could expose the fraud. Not only redeeming himself but also teaching this show a lesson. And, most importantly, shutting down this scene-stealing nobody. His gaze darkened. Time to set a trap. Chapter 63. I'll expose you. And GE, is there really no cure for your cancer? No cure. Not even with money. Still no cure. I'm sorry. Su Xingqian lowered her head apologetically. It's fine, haha. Su Xingqian felt immense sympathy for Chen Huaian. But looking at the calm confidence on his face, she realized she had no right to pity him. This was a man radiating light and warmth. He didn't need pity. His life was far more brilliant than most. Maybe this was what people meant by, heaven is jealous of talent. The gods gave him peerless beauty, only to take away his lifespan. What should have been a tragedy was instead turned into an inspirational comedy by his own unwavering optimism. Their conversation was all captured on the live broadcast. By now, the chat was completely devoid of Kai Yifan's fans. Every comment was purely emotional. I'm crying, this guy is too strong. And GE, we'll all be here to witness your journey. I was just cursing him for being late, I feel so guilty now. This show just became a must-watch. Director Zhang clicked his tongue. People were so fake. Online audiences were even more hypocritical, magnified to absurd degrees. Just moments ago, they had been yelling for Chen Huaian to be kicked out. Now, tears, tears, tears. But what nobody knew. Despite his calm exterior, Chen Huaian was suffering. He wanted to check his phone so badly. Was Li Qingran safely in Lingxi Valley by now? Was she being bullied as a new disciple? Unfortunately, he couldn't play his game until the show was done. Even glancing at his phone had to be done in secret, when the cameras weren't on him. But could the damn cameraman stop filming him all the time? Chen Huaian felt like he was going to break. Meanwhile, Kai Yifan was plotting. Suddenly, I feel super energized. Can I lead the group? With an exaggerated bounce, he hopped to the front and asked the guide. You want to lead? The guide, a retired mountaineer, glanced at Kai Yifan's thin arms and legs. He sighed inwardly. This is not a tourist route, the guide explained patiently. It's night, and if something unexpected happens, like encountering wild animals, you need to make the right call immediately. Otherwise, you'll provoke them. Are you sure you're up for it? Wild animals. In 2034, Kai Yifan almost laughed. Even if there were wild animals, would they dare attack such a large group of people? This guide was just worried about his paycheck. If he lost control of the group, his salary might get docked. Typical blue-collar worker behavior. Kai Yifan sneered internally. No matter how hard they worked, they'd never compare to someone like him, a top-tier idol. Relax, uncle. I trained in Shaolin as a kid. Still got virgin's urine, haven't lost my powers yet. I'm super strong. Even if we see a bear, I'll knock it out. To prove himself, Kai Yifan flexed his muscles. Yes, he had gone to Shaolin. But he left after less than a month. Back then, he thought the experience was worthless. After he became famous, however, his agency repackaged it into Shaolin trained, pure-hearted, martial arts background, strong physique, disciplined, resilient, hardworking. To sell the image, his company even trained him for a month in stage fighting. Didn't matter if it looked weak, as long as it looked good. His brain-dead fans wouldn't know the difference. Sometimes, even he himself started to believe he was some kind of martial arts master. That's why every time he led a team in online games, he'd always tell the support. Relax, I'm strong. Just follow my lead. Then, 5 minutes later, dead. But still, he felt great about himself. Kai Yifan, the eternal feeder. The guide didn't want to argue. Instead, he gave Director Zhang a questioning look. The director paid him. If the director approved, he'd step aside. Director Zhang frowned. What was Kai Yifan up to now? At worst, he was probably just trying to fix his image. Since Cai Yifan's agency had a deal with Pineapple TV, Zhang reluctantly decided to let him have this one chance. Let him. The guide nodded and moved to the back. This was actually the second most important position. Predators, like wolves, often follow large groups from behind, waiting for an opening. But clearly, no one in the production team considered this possibility. Meanwhile, the live chat was split into factions. Fan Ge leading the team. So brave, but not as handsome as bald Ge. Fan Ge and Huaian Ge together. Best ship ever. Huaian Ge is the handsomest. Smelly fans, stay away. Hey, I love both Fan Ge and Huaian Ge. Can't I support both? Exactly. Huaian Ge, we love you too. Chen Huaian had no idea that his fanbase was growing at lightning speed. Nor that his new fans were already fighting with Cai Yifan's. The weird thing, the fighting was incredibly weak. Cai Yifan's fans hesitated, because deep down, even they weren't sure they wanted to fight back. After all, this bald guy was just too damn handsome. He looked like he had divine blessings stacked on top of divine blessings. There was nothing to criticize. Even trying to insult him felt wrong. Every time they looked at his face, their aggression melted away. All they wanted to do was watch. Just watch. Peacefully, like monks in meditation, Cai Yifan took full advantage of his leader role. Keep pushing forward, everyone. He called out, arms spread wide. At this pace, how long will it take to reach the top? Don't you all want to see the first sunrise from Tianmen Mountain? 1, 2, 3, charge. He sped up. The cameraman, desperate not to lose him, ran after him. The other celebrities, afraid of losing screen time, forced themselves to keep up. Su Xingchen almost followed too, but then she glanced at Chen Huaian's cane. Her heart softened. And Ge, are you okay? Do you need help? I'm fine, Chen Huaian smiled. I'm used to my cane by now. Honestly, I might be faster than you. Because he was a superhuman. Did he need help? Absolutely not. He picked up his pace. His right leg felt incredibly strong tonight, like it had unlimited energy. Su Xingchen watched in shock as he overtook her. Was this the speed of a disabled man? She felt a brief suspicion, but it quickly turned into self-reproach. He's probably just forcing himself for our sake. He must be in pain. I'm crying. QAQ. Up ahead, Cai Yifan's eyes glinted. He's taking the bait. Just as I expected, he thought. If he's faking his condition, people will notice. And I'll expose him. Meanwhile, above them, hidden in the trees, a middle school-aged girl sat lazily on a branch, a backpack hooked on her shoe. The wind rustled the leaves. She sniffed the air. Her eyes flashed cold. **T. Something's coming. Chapter 64. A tap on the shoulder. Fan Ge, slow down a bit. Yeah, Fan Ge, you trained when you were a kid, but we didn't. Song Zichen and Wang Yidao were even weaker than Cai Yifan. At first, they could barely keep up. Later, they fell behind, even lagging behind Chen Huaian and the two female guests. But they didn't want to miss screen time, so they forced themselves to run until they were completely out of breath. Meanwhile, Cai Yifan was struggling too. His face was pale, his forehead dripping with sweat. He was exhausted, but for the sake of exposing Chen Huaian, he pushed on. Seeing that the moment was ripe, he finally stopped to catch his breath. Then, pointing at Song Zichen and Wang Yidao, he mocked them. You two grown men, can you even keep up? Look at Chen Huaian. He's disabled, yet he's climbing better than both of you. And he's not even sweating. At first glance, this sounded like praise. But in reality, he was calling attention to something unnatural. And everyone noticed. Song Zichen and Wang Yidao stared at Chen Huaian. It was true. They had been climbing for over half an hour. Everyone was panting and sweating. Even the professional mountaineer guide was perspiring. But Chen Huaian, not a single drop of sweat. His breathing was steady. He was completely unaffected. The realization spread through the group. They exchanged glances. Something wasn't right. Only Su Xingqian remained clueless, instead smiling brightly. Yuan, your endurance is amazing. Such willpower. Director Zhang, meanwhile, had seen Chen Huaian's medical reports. He knew Chen Huaian's cancer was real. His condition had even worsened to late stage. As for whether there was any hope of a cure, he didn't know. He only knew that Chen Huaian's illness was severe. But even he was surprised at how effortlessly Chen Huaian was keeping up. As a director, his job wasn't to investigate the truth. It was to keep the show running. So, with expert timing, he suddenly interrupted. Shish. He put on his most serious face and whispered. Do you hear that? The cameraman zoomed in. Everyone's attention immediately shifted. Director Zhang deepened his voice. It's a wolf howl. Wolf howl. The two female guests immediately tensed. It made sense. This was the mountains. Wolves were a real possibility. Even though Tianmen Mountain had been developed into a tourist attraction, its wild nature still existed beneath the surface. If they had taken the main tourist route, encountering a wolf would be extremely unlikely. But they were on a side path. And it was nighttime. The staff knew Director Zhang was just diverting attention. They held back their laughter. Truly, a seasoned director, quick on his feet. Besides, even if a wolf showed up, they had nothing to fear. They had so many people. And if things really went south, they could just pile into the backup van and drive away. A wolf couldn't outrun a van. I didn't hear any wolves. Kai Yifan wasn't letting go of this. He smirked and said, but hey, even if there's a wolf, what's there to fear? I'm here, after all. I've trained before. And worst case, we have Yuan, he's probably some hidden expert. Director Zhang laughed. You. He chuckled darkly, then added in a low, chilling voice. I'm not talking about normal wolves. His voice grew ominous. I'm talking about Tianmen Mountains, shoulder-tapping wolf. The shoulder-tapping wolf, an infamous legend. According to myth, these wolves were exceptionally cunning. They only hunted at night. They would silently sneak behind their prey. Then, they would rise on two legs and gently press down on the victim's shoulder. The moment the prey turned around, their head would be bitten off. The group exhaled in relief. Oh, it's just a story, someone muttered. Wang Lulu rolled her eyes. Director, you really love messing with people, she scolded, patting her ample chest. Su Xingqian also relaxed. She hated wolves. Not just wolves, she was scared of dogs and cats too. Oddly enough, she wasn't that afraid of bugs or snakes. Kai Yifan laughed mockingly. Director, I'm 1.9 meters tall. What kind of wolf can reach my shoulders? Height had always been his pride. He would brag about it every chance he got. If a wolf can tap my shoulder, it'd have to be 2.5 meters tall. The biggest wolf in the world is only 2 meters max. And that's not even in our country. Just then, a long, eerie howl echoed through the mountains. A woo. The night fell silent. Even the insects and birds stopped making noise. The group froze in fear. Director Zhang was stunned. He had been making it up. But now, a real wolf had answered. Kai Yifan's neck stiffened. A chill ran down his spine. He slowly turned, but there was nothing there. The howl had come from far away. It wasn't a direct threat. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and laughed nervously. Hey, I scared myself. The moment he said that, his shoulders suddenly felt heavy. Something had just pressed down on him. Two large, heavy hands settled firmly on his shoulders. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a small figure darted through the trees like lightning. The thick underbrush didn't slow her down at all. She moved like a martial arts master, even though she was wearing a middle school uniform. Ah! A piercing scream shattered the stillness of the night. The girl's expression darkened. Her steady steps faltered slightly. Damn it! Who the hell is hiking the side path at night? She had no choice. She had to intervene. This was her duty. Ever since the spiritual Qi revival began 10 years ago, As a civilian demon slayer, this was her responsibility. The hunt had begun. Chapter 65. Does he have a plan? The 1.9-meter tall Kai Fan had been foolish his whole life, but today, he finally had a moment of clarity. Maybe it was because of the folklore that Director Zhang mentioned, but the instant he felt something press down on his shoulder, his first reaction wasn't to turn around. Instead, he crouched low and rolled on the spot, scrambling back to the group in a mix of tumbling and crawling. When he got back on his feet, he finally saw what was behind him. It was a massive wolf, standing upright on its hind legs. From a rough estimate, its body length had reached at least 2.5 meters. Its entire form was wrapped in thick, black fur, yet its body appeared oddly twisted. Its head was enormous, with a mouth so wide it looked like it could swallow a truck tire whole. However, its limbs were disturbingly thin, and in its eerie green eyes, reflected the terrified faces of the people around it, eyes filled with killing intent and hunger. The sight of this monstrous wolf made the crew's scalps tingle with fear. Not a single one of them could utter a sound. Except for one. "Wow," Chen Huaian murmured. His casual remark instantly disrupted the atmosphere of terror. He genuinely wasn't doing it on purpose. He wasn't afraid at all. In fact, he found it a little amusing. For some reason, he felt like this wolf wasn't all that impressive. In terms of sheer presence, it wasn't even worthy of carrying Taoist Qingxuan's or the Qingyun Patriarch's shoes. So when he saw this odd-looking wolf, instead of feeling instinctive fear, he actually thought it looked kind of funny, its oversized head, its too thin limbs, and its bizarre posture. It didn't have the overwhelming dominance and ferocity of a true demonic beast. Nor did it look like an ordinary wild animal. It gave off the vibe of a malformed runt, like some kind of mutant that had suffered from developmental issues. Did it drink too much nuclear wastewater or something? But then again, Tianmen Mountain wasn't anywhere near the ocean. Chen Huaian's casual, "Wow," snapped the mountain climber uncle back to reality. Swallowing hard, the older man kept his eyes on the slowly approaching monster wolf, forcibly calming himself. Nobody panic. If you ever encounter a wolf in the wild, never turn your back and run. Especially now, we outnumber it, and there's only one of them. It won't attack easily. We just need to back away slowly toward the van, and we'll be safe. The van was less than 50 meters away, not far at all. But every step they took felt nerve-wracking, terrifying. Keep eye contact with it so it knows we're not afraid. But don't provoke it, that might set it off. The uncle had some experience. The monster wolf clearly showed aggression but hadn't attacked yet, only baring its fangs and growling threateningly. The cameraman, ever professional, kept rolling. Whether or not this was part of the show, he kept his lens locked onto the beast. The live stream was still ongoing. Meanwhile, the chat had exploded. "Oh my god, that wolf is huge. This is CGI, right? Just for the show. Huaian baby, come to mama. Mama will protect you. TT. Is this real or staged? Someone call the cops. Xiaofan GE, I'm sorry, but between you and Huaian GE, I still choose to worry about Huaian GE. Wait, isn't Kai Fan a Shaolin secular disciple? He's been practicing martial arts since childhood. Shouldn't taking down one wolf be a piece of cake? Song Zichen wasn't reading the comments, but he suddenly remembered what Kai Fan had said earlier. Poking him in the waist, he whispered, "Fan Ge, didn't you say you practiced martial arts since you were a kid? Go fight it off. Use your virgin urine to scare it away." Kai Fan was already on edge, and the unexpected poke to his waist sent him over the limit. He turned and shrieked at Song Zichen, "Martial arts, my ass. You're the one who trained. Your whole family trained. You expect me to fight a damn monster that big? Are you insane, or am I?" The uncle shielding the group turned pale. "Idiot," he cursed inwardly. The giant wolf had been observing them cautiously. But Kai Fan and Song Zichen's shouting was like a lit fuse to a powder keg, it instantly enraged the beast. Its body hunched, dropping to all fours in a pouncing stance. The uncle's heart nearly stopped. He spun around and shouted, "Run! Get to the van!" But the monster wolf was even faster. In a blur, it lunged, sending Song Zichen and Zhang Lulu flying. The beast landed in the middle of the group, throwing back its head in a chilling howl. Anyone with a bit of knowledge could tell, it was calling for reinforcements. Sure enough, the nearby bushes rustled, and a second monster wolf, slightly smaller, leapt out. Now there were two. Their predatory gazes locked onto the group, effectively splitting them into two factions. One group was close to the van. The other was trapped outside. And unluckily, Chen Huaian was in the latter. Along with him were Su Xingchen and the main camera operator. Su Xingchen and the cameraman were completely despairing. There was no way they could get past the wolves to the van. And Zhang's group couldn't risk their lives to save them. What now? As panic set in, one person remained perfectly calm. Chen Huaian. Aim for the skies, Superman, he whispered to himself. His cancer cells and boundless potential surged within him, resonating with his life force. He could hear them. His cold, sharp eyes locked onto the wolf demon, filled with contempt and confidence. Did these beasts even realize who they were dealing with? Chen Huaian, immortal Chen, the one who had once smashed through Qingyun sect's gates with a single sword strike, reducing them to rubble. Even the despicable Qingshan old dog had been forced to kneel in the sect's central plaza, unable to move. And this oversized, malformed mutt thought it could intimidate him. Su Xingchen noticed Chen Huaian's eerie composure. Does he have a plan? He wondered. Then, he saw Huaian lower his stance, set his footing, and raise his cane, pointing it straight at the monster wolf. And with his free hand, he curled a finger, beckoning the beast forward. Su Xingchen. No, wait. Don't underestimate Huaian Ge. Maybe he really knows martial arts. Hope flickered in Su Xingchen's heart. Yes, Huaian Ge had terminal cancer and was disabled. If he hadn't tempered his body through rigorous training, how could he still be standing? How could he have climbed Tianmen Mountain so effortlessly? The answer was obvious. The monster wolf snarled at the provocation and leapt. Su Xingchen squeezed his eyes shut in terror. But in a flash, Chen Huaian's cane shot forward like a dragon, brimming with killing intent, even carrying a hint of sword momentum. Fast, precise, ruthless, his cane struck the wolf's head. Crack! Was that its skull breaking? Su Xingchen cracked open one eye, only to see two broken halves of the cane on the ground. Oh, it was Huaian Ge's cane that shattered. Yet, Chen Huaian still stood tall before them, an unbreakable fortress. Did he have another plan? Su Xingchen and the cameraman stared at Huaian's back, waiting. Chen Huaian slowly turned. With a kind, yet tragic smile, he softly spoke. Stop staring. Enemy shamed. Retreat immediately. Check out our playlist for more amazing novels. Continue. Chapter 66. A true powerhouse. The monster wolf was stunned by that cane strike. It shook its head a few times before finally regaining its senses. It couldn't understand. There was no way an ordinary human could dodge its pounce. Yet this human had stopped it with just a wooden stick. What confused it even more was, at the moment that stick came down, it felt something. A terrifying shiver down its spine, a chilling sensation that told it if that stick had been a sword, its head would already be on the ground. Was this human strong? The wolf stared at the three fleeing figures, its eyes filled with doubt. If this human was that strong, why was he running? So he wasn't strong. That strike just now must have been a fluke. Chase. The wolf figured it out. It was fast, just a few strides, and it had already closed in on Chen Huaian from behind. Its glowing eyes locked onto the back of the human's neck, gleaming brighter with excitement. On Chen Huaian's back, a shadowy black dragon wavered between illusion and reality, slowly becoming more distinct. Then, in a flash, Chen Huaian accidentally stepped on a rock. His body instantly lost balance, and two Thunderfire talismans slipped from his chest, falling to the ground. At the same time, his right leg reflexively swung backward. The unexpected kick landed right under the wolf's chin. Crack, boom, a sharp, sickening snap rang out. The wolf's jaw shattered. A massive force blasted the creature into the air, sending it tumbling deep into the bushes. Meanwhile, Chen Huaian landed flat on his back. Su Xingqian and the cameraman, who had been running ahead, saw the scene and immediately rushed back to help him up. Don't. Just keep running. Chen Huaian's face was pale from pain. He didn't even know what he had kicked, but his right foot felt like it had fractured. He still thought the wolf was chasing him. No way. We're not leaving you behind. Let's go while it's still down. Su Xingqian and the cameraman grabbed him from both sides and started dragging him forward. Chen Huaian finally turned his head, only to see nothing behind them. Empty. He could have sworn that wolf was right on top of him just now. So where did it go? Weird. Really weird. Meanwhile, in the bushes, the monster wolf with its shattered jaw staggered to its feet. Compared to the cane strike earlier, its head felt even more dazed now. Its ears buzzed, and its lower jaw throbbed with agony, like it had been slammed by one of those human iron boxes. This pain only ignited its fury. Its eerie green eyes slowly turned red. Heavy breaths escaped its throat, and its body began to expand, its thick fur bristling like steel needles. Ever since it had gained higher intelligence, no human had ever made it feel this much pain. The last time it felt this way was when it got hit by a damn iron box. Humans. They all deserve to die. This mountain was supposed to belong to them. Now, it was just a playground for humans to hike and sightsee. They had been forced deeper into the forests, always on the lookout for those high-speed iron boxes. Why? Awoo! The wolf howled, bursting from the bushes. It emerged in full glory, its kingly presence commanding fear and respect, bloodlust surging. The darkness of the night seemed to embrace it, as if cheering for its vengeance. It would make the humans pay for their humiliation. Locking onto their scent, the wolf bolted forward at lightning speed. Then, it stepped on one of the fallen Thunderfire talismans. Boom! Back with Chen Huaian. He suddenly froze. That thunderclap just now sounded familiar. Like he had heard it somewhere before. Why is there thunder? Su Xingqian also felt something was off. It was sunny just now, and why does the wind smell like something's burning? Dragging along an adult was exhausting. Su Xingqian and the cameraman were quickly running out of strength. Fortunately, they spotted a small wooden hut nearby. The three of them rushed in and slammed the door shut. Chen Huaian leaned against the door, sitting down. His foot didn't hurt anymore. But since he was technically supposed to be a disabled person, he figured he should keep up appearances. Wouldn't want the show to find out and make him pay back the compensation, right? Huaian, why are you sitting by the door? That's dangerous. Su Xingqian moved to pull him further inside. But Chen Huaian simply raised a hand, stopping him. His expression was calm as he spoke. If that wolf comes, at least I can buy you two some time to escape through the window. I don't have much time left to live anyway. You saved my life, so naturally, I'll return the favor. Su Xingqian's eyes turned red again. He sniffled and pouted, sitting beside Chen Huaian. Huaian, you're too nice. I already called the police. Everyone's gonna be okay. Chen Huaian nodded casually. You flatter me. I'm just an ordinary person. He reached for his phone, about to open a game. Then he saw the camera lens still aimed at him. Chen Huaian's face froze. Wait, you're still recording. The sweat-drenched cameraman grinned, showing a set of pearly whites. Hey, professionalism. 5 minutes ago. Wolf. The wolf is eating people. Ha ha ha. Wolf. It's here. Ha ha ha. Kai Yifan twitched uncontrollably on the twisted, half-destroyed van door. The others were huddled in terror inside the wrecked van. Not far away lay a gigantic wolf, dead in a pool of blood. Its body had expanded to 4 meters. A true colossus. At first, they thought hiding in the van would save them. They didn't expect the wolf to treat the van like a toy it could rip apart. Standing next to its corpse was a schoolgirl. She held a spear in one hand. Blood dripped from its tip, mixed with yellow-white brain matter. Wolf brains. Lin Lingling wiped the blood from her face, expressionless. She glanced at Kai Yifan. His leg was mangled, and his mind had clearly snapped. He kept muttering nonsense. TCH. A Shaolin secular disciple, with this level of mental resilience. Lin Lingling scoffed. The fact that she once idolized him disgusted her now. Ever since she became a demon slayer, celebrities had lost all meaning. Stars. Nothing. This world was far more thrilling than she had ever imagined. It just hadn't fully erupted yet. For now, to keep society stable, everything was still covered up. But truth couldn't stay hidden forever. Ah, Miss Hero. Director Zhang hesitated, choosing his words carefully. A second wolf chased after 3 people. They ran west. Please, save them. What? You're just telling me now. Lin Lingling's eyes widened in rage. She rushed west. Then, suddenly, a blinding light flashed across the sky. Boom. Lin Lingling froze. Her eyes widened as she saw thunder crash down from the heavens. The wolf demon's aura vanished instantly. A powerhouse. Lin Lingling felt the righteous force within that lightning. She immediately knew, not only was there another demon slayer. They were a damn big shot. Chapter 67. I've got more. Lin Lingling followed the path of the lightning strike. Finally, in a 5-meter-wide crater, she found the charred corpse of the wolf demon. Its jawbone is shattered. Based on the fracture pattern, it looks like it was hit by a blunt weapon. That means the powerhouse's weapon was probably a hammer or a staff. Since a big shot had already handled the situation and there was no scent of human blood, it meant the missing 3 were safe. So, without any burden on her conscience, Lin Lingling crouched down and began studying the wolf's corpse. She reached out, picked up a wolf bone, and lightly pinched it. It crumbled into dust. Her pupils contracted. A lightning-based attack, and with this much power, could it be a general-level slayer? But there were only a handful of generals in the world. Lin Lingling was shocked by her own deduction. Currently, demon slayers were ranked into 4 levels: white, scholar, soldier, and general. She was only at white level, which meant she was considered a civilian demon slayer. Civilians could take missions but weren't officially employed. It was similar to being a bounty hunter. No forced assignments, work was voluntary, and killing demons for profit was fair game. However, if you overestimated yourself and got killed, well, tough luck. No one was coming to collect your body. Lin Lingling had been paying for her tuition with money earned from slaying demons. Otherwise, who knew where she'd be right now? Probably screwing bolts in some sketchy sweatshop. Her ultimate goal: to become an officially recognized demon slayer. Only then would she gain access to the real secrets of this world. What's this? She bent down and picked up a piece of yellow paper. It was lying just 3 meters from the wolf's corpse. Intricate vermilion symbols were drawn on it, runes that pulsed with latent thunder energy. The moment she realized what she was holding, her fingers trembled. If she had demonic energy in her, she'd probably be incinerated on the spot. So the lightning earlier came from this talisman. Lin Lingling inhaled sharply. If the powerhouse was able to unleash that level of destruction just by using a talisman, this was unprecedented. Even the strongest demon slayer in Huasha couldn't pull off something like that. Who the hell was this person? She steadied herself and continued following the footprints. Finally, near the wolf's corpse, she found an old, abandoned ranger's cabin. Inside the cabin, why hasn't the wolf shown up yet? Yuan, how can you say that? Su Xingchen turned pale. The cameraman was speechless. What, are you looking forward to it? No, it's just, according to the law of balanced danger, if we're safe, it means the other group is probably in trouble. Chen Huaian rubbed his chin and said casually, those 2 wolves were huge. Do you really think Zhang and the others could survive just by hiding in the van? Section. At his words, Su Xingchen and the cameraman's expressions darkened. Right. If the van crew was dead, wouldn't they be next? How could they outrun these beasts in the middle of a mountain wilderness? Just then, creak, the cabin door slowly swung open. Moonlight poured in, casting a huge shadow on the wall. But it wasn't a wolf. It was a girl. Lin Lingling stood in the doorway, illuminated by the moon, and examined the 3 people inside. 2 men and 1 woman. 1 bald guy, 1 innocent-looking young woman, and 1 buff cameraman. None of them looked like a powerhouse. They had no aura of inner strength. So the big shot wasn't here. Her eyes flickered with doubt. Had the powerhouse already left? As expected of a general-level demon slayer. Come and go without a trace, a mere rookie like her couldn't even detect them. Little sister, there are wolves outside. Hurry in and hide. Seeing a cute schoolgirl, Su Xingqian let out a sigh of relief. Go, why was she carrying a long spear on her back? Cosplay. Whatever. As long as she wasn't a wolf, that was good enough. The wolves are already dead. Lin Lingling's spear was still dripping blood, but her face remained emotionless as she spoke in a trembling, frightened tone. Oh no, I was just hiking, and then I saw a wolf's corpse. I panicked and ran here. I'm so scared. Su Xingqian. This girl is suspicious as hell. Meanwhile, Chen Huaian's gaze locked onto her. His eyes scanned her up and down before stopping at her hand. Then, he blinked. Little sister, where did you find that talisman? Lin Lingling froze. She looked at Chen Huaian. Then she looked again, and again, and again. Until she was staring hard. Holy shit. He's really freaking hot. When she first entered, she hadn't paid attention. Now that she looked closer, she wanted to superglue her eyes to his face. But she was a dignified demon slayer. She forcefully suppressed her internal fangirl meltdown, coughed twice, and responded with a straight face. Talisman. No idea what you're talking about. That's just my keychain. Demon slayers were sometimes forced into public exposure. In the past, monsters were rare, so they had to completely conceal their identities, often making civilians sign non-disclosure agreements. Later, authorities even developed memory-erasing drugs. But these days, monsters were everywhere. Secrecy was becoming impossible, and those drugs were too expensive to hand out like candy. So, unless the monster looked completely unnatural, the official narrative was simple. It mutated from drinking seawater. And demon slayers. They were just highly skilled martial artists. Sometimes, they worked alongside security forces and were called special operations agents. Bottom line, the public could never know the truth. So, naturally, her first instinct was to deny everything. Unfortunately, but this talisman should be mine, right? To prove his point, Chen Huaian reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a wrinkled Thunderfire talisman. Keychain, my ass. This schoolgirl might look pure and innocent, but she was a straight-up liar. Lin Lingling, look, I've got more. Chen Huaian casually pulled out 5 more talismans. Lin Lingling, Chapter 68, Your virtual girlfriend has joined the Sword Pavilion. The Tianmen mountain trip ended in a complete mess. Kai Yifan was traumatized into insanity. His title as a Shaolin secular disciple had turned into a joke. Song Zichen and Wang Yitao's public image shattered beyond repair. 2 grown men had been more cowardly than a young girl when facing danger. Thanks to the cameraman's dedication, Su Xingqian's reputation as a kind-hearted lamb skyrocketed, going viral online. Zhang Lulu, while not particularly impressive, still gained moderate popularity. But the real internet sensation, the one dominating discussions, was the middle school girl who fought a wolf with her bare hands. The impossibly handsome, effortlessly calm, and terrifyingly composed, national first male god, Chen Huaian. Of course, national first male god was just a nickname given by netizens. Despite the accident on the Brave Star Adventure show, the incident boosted its ratings dramatically. And since no one died, the internet quickly downplayed the danger. Instead, the main takeaway became the ridiculous expressions of the male celebrities. Chen Huaian's face became a meme as well. But because he had been so calm, there were no ugly or embarrassing screenshots. Every single meme of him looked insanely cool. Hotel front desk. Receptionist A. The hottie from room 418 is back. Receptionist B. Really? This morning, I even sent Auntie to check, and he wasn't here yet. Receptionist A. So, should we send him a green bubble message? Receptionist B. Ah, I'm just a hotel receptionist. He'd never be interested in me. Standing in front of the counter, Lin Lingling was speechless. She was short, barely taller than the counter itself. And with the 32-inch monitors sitting on the counter, her entire lower face was blocked from view. Excuse me, I'd like to book room 417. Lin Lingling raised her ID card with both hands. Receptionist A. Oh, come on, you're not bad looking. What if he actually likes you? Lin Lingling. Excuse me, I'd like to book room 417. Receptionist B. But I weigh almost 180 pounds. Receptionist A. That's fine. Curvy girls are trendy now. Lin Lingling had had enough. She took a deep breath and snapped. You heard me. I said I want room 417. The two receptionists finally noticed her. Ah, sorry, little sister. Room 417 is already taken. What about 419? 419 is available. I'll book it for a month. Swipe my card. Lin Lingling, expressionless, slammed her bank card onto the desk. After checking in, she wordlessly dragged her huge suitcase into the elevator. As the elevator doors closed, Lin Lingling thought back to last night. After confirming that Chen Huaian's talismans were 100% real, her first reaction was, Chen Huaian must be the hidden expert. But something felt off. Chen Huaian had no inner force, just a regular person. He failed every single test. On the way down the mountain, she had asked if he was general ranked. Chen Huaian had looked at her like she was an idiot and replied, I'm a comparative degree. Still unconvinced, she tried giving him coded phrases. She said, a friend from afar has arrived. The correct response was, is it not a joy? Chen Huaian, instead, responded, if they're far, then we must kill them. She tried again, do you not recognize the true face of Mount Lu? The correct response was, because one is in the mountain. Chen Huaian's answer, I only know to draw my bow and shoot eagles. A total disaster. His completely clueless expression told her. This absurdly handsome man had zero knowledge about the Demon Slayer Bureau. But then, where did he get those talismans? Who was he? Did he even know how to use them? Maybe he was just a random civilian who stumbled upon some powerful artifacts. As a demon slayer, besides exterminating demons, she had another mission. To identify civilians affected by spiritual chi revival. Some of them could become allies. They needed to be informed about the Demon Slayer Bureau. Some of them could turn into dangerous threats. Lately, serial murder cases had been rising. Some were committed by monsters, but many were by humans who had gained unnatural powers. And these humans were often far more terrifying than the demons. She had returned the talismans to Chen Huaian. Even with her adorable youthful face, she couldn't get away with stealing them. But she wasn't about to let him go. That's why she booked the room next to his. To find out what he really was. If he was just a random civilian, she would buy back those dangerous items. And, yes, she definitely wanted them for herself. Standing at the door of room 419, Lin Lingling turned to look at room 418. The door was shut tight. A talisman was firmly stuck to it. The exact same Thunderfire talisman that had killed the wolf demon. What the hell? Does he even know how to use them? Lin Lingling clawed at her head, feeling like she was about to lose her mind. What if he was actually a high-level expert on a secret mission? Wouldn't she just be barging into his business? Forget it. I'll just stay here for a few days and observe. Meanwhile, in room 418, Chen Huaian split his fresh Sao's spicy duck with bhaji. Then, plugging in his phone, he booted up his virtual girlfriend app. Last night had been a mess. After everything, he had to spend half the night in the police bureau. Why? Apparently, getting attacked by wild animals required a formal police report, complete with heavy security presence, as if it had been a terrorist attack. An eye-opening experience, to say the least. Qingran must have joined Lingxi Valley by now. Chen Huaian muttered to himself. Lingxi Valley. A sect full of beautiful women. Surely, he'd get to feast his eyes on some stunning beauties, right? But when he opened the game, it was a wasteland. Ruins. Broken pillars. Desolation everywhere. This was Lingxi Valley. The famous sect of female healers. The sect plaque was shattered, the inscription barely readable. Chen Huaian slowly typed a question mark. Then, a game notification popped up. Question mark. Your virtual girlfriend, Li Qingran, has joined the sect, Sword Pavilion. Question mark. Sword Pavilion, a sect entirely composed of sword cultivators. Due to the nature of sword cultivation, this sect is known as the poorest sect in Cangyun Realm. Chen Huaian. Heavenly divination. Get out here. I demand a disability refund. Chapter 69. Chen Huaian is a Grand Elder. Half a day earlier, disciple Qingran greets the sect master. Li Qingran bowed gracefully to Su Qingran. She had successfully passed all the Sword Pavilion's assessments and officially joined. Only now did she realize that, in order to snatch spirit stones, the 4 elders of the Sword Pavilion had all been deployed. The one who had flown her here was senior sister Yu Qianqi, Su Qingyan's direct disciple, wielder of the Xuanwu sword. The Sword Pavilion had few disciples, and its buildings were old and run down. Everything reeked of poverty. Along the way, she saw no more than 100 disciples, and many of them seemed a bit eccentric. Ha ha ha, no need to be so formal, Qingran. Now that you're in our Sword Pavilion, you're family. Su Qingyan stroked his beard and led Li Qingran to the sect's main square, smiling as he spoke. I tricked you into thinking this was Qingyan sect earlier, had no choice. Too many people were watching, and we just pulled off a big heist. Couldn't risk exposure. Li Qingran wasn't comfortable with the idea of robbing others. Though the Sword Pavilion hadn't harmed anyone, it still wasn't the right thing to do. But when she thought about how this might be her master's sect, she let go of her reservations. She even started understanding Su Qingyan's actions. As a prestigious sect known for its sword cultivation, they wouldn't resort to this if they had a choice. Clearly, they had been desperate. This was probably a one-time thing. Once the Sword Pavilion got through this crisis, it wouldn't happen again. Until a short, chubby elder named Yuan Sanshi spoke up. Sect Master, this hall was amazing. We got over 100,000 low-grade spirit stones, should last us for a while. Who do we rob next? Su Qingyan didn't even hesitate. A month from now, Zhongzhou's secret realm. We hit them again. Thoughts? The elders beamed with joy and cupped their hands. Sect Master is wise. Li Qingran. She took back everything she just thought. Sect introductions. Since they had kidnapped Li Qingran, they now had to take responsibility. Su Qingyan had the elders line up and introduced them. Qingran, our sword pavilion has 6 peaks. Xuanwu Peak, my peak, practices the Xuanwu sword intent, a heavy sword style that splits mountains and shatters boulders. Lingyun Peak, Elder Yuan's, masters the first momentum sword, carrying the power to dominate vast lands. Cangyun Peak, Elder Li's, masters the hidden sword technique, a sword that remains sheathed until it must taste blood. Luoshuang Cliff, Elder Wang's, masters the first frost sword, creating a bone-piercing chill that blankets the land in snow. Ruthless Peak, Elder Wu's, masters the ruthless sword intent, a blade that cuts not just flesh but also the soul. Wanjian Peak, No One's, holds the legendary steel of the peerless sword intent, but since none of us cultivate it, it has no elder to guide you. Choose wisely. Seeing Li Qingran looking dazed, Su Qingyan stroked his beard and suggested. You have a pure water spiritual root and an absolute grade Dantian. You're a once in 10,000 years prodigy. I suggest you join Elder Wang's Luoshuang Cliff. His Ice Soul Sword technique is a perfect match for your water spiritual root. You'll progress at lightning speed. Also, never reveal your absolute grade Dantian to anyone. Inside the Sword Pavilion, we can protect you. Outside, people's hearts are sinister. It could bring disaster. Li Qingran nodded. Disciple will remember. When she first underwent the aptitude test, She had feared that her absolute grade Dantian would draw trouble. To her surprise, the sect master and elders were only briefly surprised. Later, she learned that over 30 disciples in the sword pavilion had graded Dantians. Senior sister Yu Qianqi had a second-grade Dantian. Though an absolute-grade Dantian was incredibly rare, it wasn't shocking here. Sword Pavilion seemed unassuming because it avoided competition. It looked impoverished, but it hid deep power. Like a sheathed blade. Perhaps the only thing that could stir these sword maniacs' emotions was being broke. Even though the sect master's recommendation was excellent, Li Qingran didn't forget her goal. She wanted to become a healer. To do that, she couldn't focus solely on sword cultivation. She couldn't follow an elder. Otherwise, if their views clashed, it would cause problems. So, she bowed and said, "Disciple wishes to enter the 6th peak." Su Qinian chuckled helplessly. "You still wish to become a pillar healing cultivator?" Li Qingran lowered her head in silence. "Very well, then, the 6th peak it is." He didn't force her, but he offered a parting remark. "From the looks of your internal energy, you likely already have a master. I won't worry about you lacking a cultivation technique. The Sword Pavilion, despite its focus on swords, has deeper foundations than any sect in the Cangyun Realm. We may seem small and impoverished, but once you enter the Scripture Pavilion, you'll see another world entirely." Li Qingran didn't think he was exaggerating. The confidence and arrogance in his voice were undeniable. Her regret at not entering Lingxi Valley diminished greatly. Besides, maybe this place really was connected to her master. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but ask. "Sect master, if I may ask, do you know any senior named Chen?" "A Chen, a sword cultivator." Su Qinian raised an eyebrow. "Yes. Ahahaha." Su Qinian glanced at her expectant eyes, his mind spinning. "Of course. Grand Elder Chen was once our Sword Pavilion's supreme elder. However, he left long ago. Even I don't know where he is. Probably off slaying demons for fun somewhere." "I see." Li Qingran's heart filled with excitement. So this really was her master's former sect. No wonder their sword styles were so similar. "Train hard," Su Qinian said. "When Grand Elder Chen returns, I'll introduce you. He's very strict with his disciples. Only the strong are worthy of meeting him." "Yes, disciple will remember." Li Qingran bowed deeply, her face radiant with joy. "All right, go pick a cave residence with your senior sister." Su Qinian gestured to Yu Qianqi. She understood immediately and led Li Qingran away. After they left, "Elder Yuan, sect master, do we actually have a Grand Elder Chen?" Su Qinian, "Hell no." Elder Yuan, "Then why did you?" Su Qinian, "She's an absolute grade Dantian holder. If she trains seriously in swordsmanship, she has limitless potential. But she clearly had a master who focused on healing techniques. So I had to lie." He gazed at the vast clouds beyond the mountain, eyes deep. "This is the era of great struggle. Only a sword at your waist can protect you. Healing and alchemy. If war erupts, all it takes is one enemy to burn down your clinic and smash your pill furnace, and you'll be helpless. I did this to protect her." The elders exchanged glances, then bowed deeply. Sect Master is wise. Chapter 70, Choosing a Cave Residence. "Qingran, this is where we live in the Sword Pavilion." Riding on a flying sword, senior sister Yu Qianqi pointed toward a towering 10,000-meter peak in the distance. Li Qingran looked closely and saw numerous man-made caves carved into the mountainside, along with small stone huts. Around these dwellings, some cultivators had their own spiritual fields, and the various plants and decorations displayed their personal tastes. For example, one cultivator had planted chrysanthemums in front of their cave. Another had massive cacti covering the entrance. Though she hadn't met their owners, Li Qingran could already tell, these two must have completely opposite personalities. Seeing Qingran lost in thought, Yu Qianqi chuckled, assuming she found the mountain too shabby. She explained, "Unlike other sects, our sword pavilion doesn't have many natural blessed lands. So, to increase spiritual qi concentration, sect master redirected the qi from all the other peaks into this one." This means that, although we all live here together and it's a bit cramped, the cultivation conditions are much better. And besides, it's livelier this way. Hearing this, Li Qingran nodded, admiration flickering in her eyes. The sect master must be a pragmatic person. He was willing to sacrifice the sect's reputation to prioritize the well-being of its disciples. Back when she was in Cangyun sect, she had wondered, why didn't the sect master just consolidate the spiritual chi into one area instead of letting the disciples compete with each other? She had once brought up the idea to Taoist Qingshan. He had scolded her as a fool. Cultivation is a struggle against the heavens, the earth, and humanity itself. He had said, if everyone eats from the same pot, how do you differentiate talent and hard work? But Li Qingran had always believed that a sect should be like a family, united, helping one another, not constantly fighting. Maybe she was just too naive. Junior sister, you seem deep in thought. Something on your mind? No. Li Qingran met Yu Qianqi's clear eyes, her face turning slightly red as she lowered her head. Senior sister, I think this place is great. Which cave residences are still available? Yu Qianqi gestured toward the upper half of the mountain. Up there, most of them are empty. Some were dug out by disciples themselves. Some are just craters left behind when Master fought the sect's guardian beast. If you don't like any of them, you can dig your own. Why do most people choose to live lower on the mountain? Li Qingran asked curiously. Convenience. Yu Qianqi shrugged. Flying swords are tiring. Our sword pavilion's philosophy is, if you can stand, don't fly. If you can sit, don't stand. If you can lie down, don't sit. If you can sleep, don't wake up. If you can, never mind the last part. Li Qingran. So this is the lifestyle of sword pavilion cultivators. They're so lazy. As they neared the mountain, she saw several sword cultivators lying around in random places. One was lounging on the back of a turtle by a waterfall, basking in the sun. At first glance, it looked lazy, but upon closer inspection, there was a strange meditative aura to it. That's Duan Feng, a cultivator of the ruthless Tao. He's in deep comprehension. Yu Qianqi rolled her eyes. He's usually as stiff as a coffin board. Super boring. She then took Li Qingran on a full tour around the mountain. Well, junior sister, have you decided where you want to stay? Li Qingran blinked. A vision flashed in her mind. A cliffside residence, where she could watch the sunrise, listen to the chirping birds, and gaze at the vast skies. Senior sister, I want to live at the mountaintop. All right. Yu Qianqi wasn't surprised. Most new disciples chose the mountaintop. The scenery was breathtaking, and the view was unmatched. At first, they didn't mind flying everywhere. But after a while, they'd realize how exhausting it was to fly every single morning just to make it to early lessons. Waking up extra early, flying long distances while others leisurely walked over. Drenched in sweat before class even started. Then came summer. The scorching heat baked them alive. A full day of sun exposure on the mountaintop was unbearable. Then came winter. Blizzards. Freezing winds. Down below, flowers bloomed. Up above, they froze their butts off. Within 6 months, most disciples gave up and tried to challenge senior disciples for better located caves. The lower on the mountain, the stronger the disciple. Still, Yu Qianqi took her to the peak. There was an abandoned stone house covered in dust. It had clearly been vacant for a long time. All right, junior sister, this is your stop. If you need anything, use a communication talisman to contact me. Or just visit me at Cave 1 at the mountain base. Just then, a faint aroma of wine drifted through the air. Yu Qianqi, previously calm and composed, suddenly lit up. Her eyes sparkled as she hurriedly set Li Qingran down. Licking her lips, she grinned mischievously. Senior sister has to go drink. Kekakekaki, see you. And she was gone. Her flying sword roared down the mountain at full speed. Her voice echoed through the peaks. Junior sister, don't be late for morning lessons. Then, another voice responded. Shuan, I'm counting to 3. Hand over your new brew, or I'll destroy your cave. TCH. Over my dead body, Tomboy. Boom. Two sword intents clashed in the distance. The mountain shook from their battle. A few cranes napping on the cliffs barely flinched. Clearly, this was a daily occurrence. Li Qingran stood by the cliffside for a moment, then turned and entered the stone house. A new beginning. She clenched her fists in determination. Tomorrow, after morning lessons, she'd visit the scripture pavilion. She had to cure her master. She had to ensure his eternal life. With that thought, she grabbed a broom and began cleaning the dusty room. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed in the void. Qingran, we have been apart for a day. Did you miss your master? Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 71, Farmville. Qingran, I missed you so much. In room 418, Chen Huaian hugged his phone, furiously typing away. He had no idea that his words were being heavily edited on the other side. Meanwhile, on the table nearby, Baji had just taken a bite of Sao's spicy duck and was now trembling violently from the spiciness. Hearing Chen Huaian's voice, Li Qingran's eyes softened like melted honey, her entire being radiating joy. Master, Qingran missed you too. She looked around but couldn't see Chen Huaian. Master, where are you? I am still battling a great demon, but I have left a sliver of my divine sense here so I can occasionally speak with you. Li Qingran's heart sank in disappointment but quickly recovered. She asked with concern, Master, were you injured by the great demon? And, your poison? Do not worry about me. I am fine. Oh, that's good. Master is the strongest. But deep down, Li Qingran didn't believe it. With such a severe poison, her master must be suffering. She could already picture it. A white-haired immortal, drenched in blood, resting against the corpse of a demon beast, his sword still embedded in its body. Even in agony, he still forced himself to speak to his distant disciple. Just imagining it, her heart raced 1,000 times faster. No. Face burning, Li Qingran shook her head furiously. This wasn't the time for such thoughts. Master, I have joined a new sect. Everyone here is very kind to me. Tomorrow, I will visit the scripture pavilion to search for a cure for your poison. Hearing this only made Chen Huaian more frustrated. Which sect did you join? The sword pavilion. Li Qingran touched her lips and smiled. I originally planned to join Lingxi Valley, but some unexpected things happened. Their young mistress doesn't like men, so when she found out my master was male, she kicked me out. What? Outrageous. Chen Huaian rolled his eyes so hard they nearly fell out of their sockets. He mentally wrote down the name of this Lingxi Valley young mistress in his personal revenge notebook. Qingran, just wait. The next time I run into that young mistress, I'll teach her a lesson. How dare she kick you out? Who does she think she is? You are immortal Chen's treasured disciple. No one bullies you and gets away with it. HMPH. Lingxi Valley must have a death wish. How dare they wrong my disciple? When I return, I shall wipe them from existence. Master, it's really fine. Li Qingran shook her head gently. This matter is already in the past. Everyone has their own principles. Since she wouldn't accept me, I simply found a better home. Chen Huaian's eyelid twitched. The sword pavilion. Yep, Li Qingran giggled. This was your old sect, wasn't it, master? I figured it out as soon as I saw them riding flying swords without wind shielding formations. I'm so smart, right? Wait, Chen Huaian's brain froze. Wind shielding formation. You need a formation to ride a flying sword. Where is it? How do you activate it? And, the sword pavilion was his old sect. Since when? Who told you that? The sect master. Li Qingran's eyes sparkled with admiration. He said you were the supreme elder of the sword pavilion. But you've been away for a long time, and he doesn't know where you are now. He also told me to train hard, or else you wouldn't even bother looking at me as your disciple. Li Qingran clasped her fingers together, blushing shyly. Chen Huaian stared at her naive, trusting expression. If he had to guess. This dumb girl had been scammed. That sword pavilion sect master must have figured something out and improvised a masterful deception. Now, Li Qingran was the donkey, and Chen Huaian was the carrot tied in front of her. Chen Huaian couldn't help but laugh in exasperation. Right, master. Should I tell the sect master about your current situation? If he knew, maybe he could help you. Li Qingran's eyes lit up. After all, she wasn't sure how strong Su Qinian was, but if he was as powerful as Wu Duantian, he might be able to assist her master. No, wait, actually, yes. Go ahead. Chen Huaian had wanted to refuse. He wasn't really a supreme elder, after all. But then he thought, if this sect master was already using his name to manipulate Li Qingran, why not play along and see how he'd cover for it? All right, I'll go see the sect master tomorrow. Li Qingran nodded seriously. Chen Huaian opened the game map and scanned the entire sword pavilion. To his surprise, everyone in the sect was a green light. Not a single yellow or red dot. That meant, not one person harbored ill intent toward Li Qingran. Everyone had goodwill toward her, or at least toward their fellow disciples. Even the two light dots currently fighting, though their battle seemed intense, there was zero malice between them. Fine. Not joining Lingxi Valley isn't a big deal. Chen Huaian shook his head. Plans never keep up with changes. Just like how he had no idea that climbing a mountain would lead to fighting two massive wolves. Just then, a notification popped up. Your virtual girlfriend's residence is too run down. Recharge 68 yen to give your girlfriend a cozy home. Chen Huaian scoffed. 68 yen, peanuts. Even if this was just a trap to unlock more microtransactions. So what? Chen the pay to win immortal, had plenty of money. Charge it. Swoosh. Just as Li Qingran was about to start cleaning, a golden light flashed. Her stone hut transformed into a beautiful wooden house, complete with brand new furniture and decorations. It was exactly like before. Her heart clenched. More than spirit stones, magic artifacts, or even divine pills. What she remembered most was that rainy night, when her master had simply spoken the word, home. And, instantly, a house appeared to shelter her from the storm. It was just a simple house, built from wood and stone. Yet to her, it was the most precious thing in the world. When Master took her away from Wanqing Mountain, she had looked back at that tiny house for a long time, feeling reluctant to leave. Chen Huaian's care had always been subtle and unnoticed by others. And that made it even harder to repay. Meanwhile, back in room 418, Chen Huaian stared blankly at his screen. You have unlocked the Virtual Girlfriend's Residence feature. You may now purchase the following upgrades to assist your virtual girlfriend's cultivation. Basic Spirit Gathering Formation, 10,000 yen. Intermediate Spirit Gathering Formation, 100,000 yen. Cultivatable Spirit Field, 5,000 yen. Upgrade Spirit Field LV1, 1,000 yen. Build Spirit Beast Pen unlocks Pet Store, 50,000 yen. Upgrade Residence to LV2, 998 yen. Chen Huaian slowly typed a question mark. Then, he zoomed out to see the surrounding landscape. There were large, divided plots of land just waiting to be developed. A single, ancient game name escaped his lips. Is this, Farmville? Chapter 72, that's it. Just some grass. Although this game was pretty outdated, Chen Huaian instantly recognized that the cave residence system was just a reskinned version of the classic QQ farm. If I set up this so-called beast pen, I bet I could even raise some spirit chickens and spirit cows in here. Chen Huaian scoffed, then upgraded Li Qingran's cave residence to level 2. With a flash of golden light, her small wooden hut expanded, now larger by an entire section. 2 new side rooms appeared as well. One with a bathing tub, the other with a stove for cooking. Can't forget the spiritual qi. Chen Huaian took a moment to observe the terrain. The mountain itself already had a basic spirit gathering formation. But if he added another basic spirit gathering formation inside the house, the effects would nearly match those of an intermediate formation. And the best part, It didn't require extra materials, perfect for a spendthrift like him. Charge. Basic black armor formation. Gotta keep Qingran safe. Charge. After a few more microtransactions, the cave residence had completely transformed. It still wasn't a luxurious pavilion, but it had refined aesthetics, clean, elegant, and fully equipped with all essentials. In Cangyun sect, this would be considered a high-class residence. In Sword Pavilion, a literal dream mansion, just as Chen Huaian was considering what else to charge for. A soft, hesitant voice came from the game. Master, please, that's enough, this is too much. Li Qingran stood at the edge of her bed, her small hands nervously gripping her sleeves, her delicate face flushed bright red. She had already witnessed Master's mystical abilities before, so she wasn't shocked. But now, her cave residence had changed so much. How was she supposed to explain this to her fellow disciples? She couldn't possibly say she built all this herself, right? Qingran says this is enough. Chen Huaian thought otherwise. A girl saying, "I don't need it," means she definitely wants it. Quote. Qingran, everyone else has spiritual fields. Master will set up some for you too. Ah, Master, no, please. Quote. 10 large plots should be enough, right? 10. Li Qingran vaguely remembered that senior sister only had 2 plots. And she had boasted about them, since cultivating a fertile spiritual field was no easy feat. Now, Master just casually offers her 10. Quote. Alright, 10 it is. Boom boom boom. The land surrounding the wooden hut trembled. 10 glowing plots of fertile spiritual fields emerged from the ground. Chen Huaian even upgraded them a bit. Now, they were all level 1 spiritual fields. Alright, that should do it. Any more and I'll be broke. Gotta save some emergency funds. Li Qingran trembled as she opened the door. She stared at the vast stretch of fertile fields, then her knees gave out. She collapsed onto the ground, eyes shut in despair. I'm done for. Completely doomed. Once Master gives something, there's no taking it back. She could already see the future. She was about to become Sword Pavilion's biggest legend. Would the other disciples start calling her Master's favorite disciple, behind her back? Meanwhile, Chen Huaian wasn't done. Quote. This outfit looks nice. Wear it to sleep. A piece of clothing dropped onto the bed. Li Qingran picked it up. And her face turned as red as a tomato. It was a white silk nightgown. The back was completely open. The waist and hips were tightly fitted. There was a slit up to the thighs. One look, and it was obvious. This dress would perfectly showcase every curve. No way she could wear this outside. Did Master want her to wear this to bed? Could that mean Master wants to see her in it? Ah, she couldn't think about it. Too embarrassing. Her face burned, turning so red it reached her ears. I've never worn anything this revealing before. But if this is Master's request, maybe it's okay. As Li Qingran spiraled into her own thoughts, Chen Huaian had already logged out of the virtual girlfriend shop. In reality, he hadn't thought that deeply at all. The shop had randomly refreshed this discounted sleepwear for only 18 yuan. Might as well buy it. Quest update. Main quest 2.0. Help your virtual girlfriend establish herself in her new foster home, completed. Rewards. 9-turn spirit orchid, delivered. A pot of Nua's earth, delivered. Main quest 3.0. Zhongzhou secret realm instance opens in 30 days. Increase your virtual girlfriend's survival rate in the instance. Every 30% increase earns a heavenly insight. Current survival rate 0%. Thud. A familiar sound echoed at the door. Chen Huaian was unfazed. Another mysterious delivery. He wasn't in a hurry, those items could be picked up anytime. Right now, he was more focused on main quest 3.0. Finally, the first dungeon is about to start. He had long suspected that this MMO-type game would have instances. With such a massive map, there had to be plenty to explore, maybe even world bosses. Leaving Wanqing Mountain was just leaving the tutorial. Joining Sword Pavilion was where the real game began. From now on, he would experience the Cangyun Realm's power struggles through Li Qingran's perspective. And with that, endless dangers. Some would be scripted events. Some would be triggered by players. And Zhongzhou's secret realm seemed to be a scripted event. What if I just don't let Li Qingran go? Chen Huaian stroked his chin. With their high favorability, he might actually convince her to skip it. Of course, he'd soon realize how naive that idea was. Doesn't matter if she goes or not, her survival rate needs to increase either way. He checked Li Qingran's status. Question mark. Status, daydreaming. Question mark. Cultivation progress. 399 800ths, Qi refinement 3rd layer. Question mark. Remaining lifespan, 143 years. Question mark. Favorability, 85 budding affection. She was blushing, lost in fantasy, surrounded by pink bubbles. Her cultivation had reached Qi refinement 3rd layer. And with 0% survival rate, that meant her current strength wasn't enough for the secret realm. She needed rapid improvement, both in techniques and power. Looks like I need to hurry up and master the Green Lotus sword manual myself. Then again, there was a full month left. He should have plenty of time. As a pay-to-win player, he just needed to charge money and enjoy the game. It was the developers and game designers who had to worry about balance. Alright, time to grab my delivery. Chen Huaian opened the door. As usual, 2 boxes sat outside. One had a tiny sprout peeking out. The other was heavy with a faint earthy smell. 9-turn spirit orchid. New as earth. Sounds kinda mystical. He brought the dusty boxes inside and grabbed a pair of scissors and wet wipes. On the coffee table, Baji, who had been half dead from spicy duck, suddenly flipped over. Its cat eyes glowed, locking onto the boxes. Chapter 73. Could this be a real talisman? Good stuff. Absolutely top-tier stuff. Baji stared intently at the box, unblinking. It had a feeling, if it ate whatever was inside this box, its strength would skyrocket. At that point, even those human-made iron boxes wouldn't stand a chance against its jaws. It could swallow them whole and refine them in an instant. After being fed, *T, for so many days, was this big shot finally willing to give it something delicious? Chen Huaian opened the box with a pair of scissors. As expected, inside was a plant. The other box contained a soil clump in a small pot, colorful, almost unnaturally so. He planted the plant into the soil, placed the pot on the windowsill, and stared at it for a while. Unable to shake his doubt, he pulled out his 1000-degree identifier to scan it. The result came back instantly. Grass, a type of plant. Wait, seriously, just an ordinary patch of grass. Chen Huaian was speechless. This game company was really cutting corners. A pot of orchids barely cost anything nowadays, and they had the nerve to send him a dirty little patch of grass. That was just lazy. And that soil, it looked like some kind of industrial pollution with all those colors. Completely unaesthetic. Then, he noticed something else in the box. Pulling it out, he found a talisman, sealed in a plastic pouch, along with an instruction sheet. Purple Heaven Divine Thunder Talisman. Please affix this talisman to the flower pot to protect the 9-turn spirit orchid from being devoured by gluttonous demonic beasts. Chen Huaian. A gluttonous demonic beast. There were only mosquitoes and one dumb cat in his room. Whatever. He'd treat it as decoration. The flower pot, engraved with celestial palaces and auspicious clouds, was quite pretty, even if all it housed was a limp little patch of grass. He peeled off the talisman and stuck it onto the flower pot. A talisman-covered flower pot with a droopy plant, definitely something a normal person wouldn't do. From a distance, the whole setup looked unhinged. Meanwhile, in the game, Li Qingran was pacing around the bed, hugging a set of clothes. Since there wasn't anything urgent to do, Chen Huaian logged off. He hadn't even had breakfast yet after all that. Once he finished eating, he planned to head to the square to practice swordsmanship. Hopefully, that old man would be there today. While Chen Huaian prepared breakfast, Baji sneakily approached the 9-turn spirit orchid. The closer it got, the denser the spiritual energy became. How could such a spiritual plant exist in this era of depleted spiritual chi? Where on earth did this big shot get it from? Baji stared at the orchid, completely baffled. But none of that really mattered. It was still edible. It edged closer, swallowing greedily at the thick scent of spiritual chi. Suddenly, zap! A violent arc of lightning crackled through the air. A terrifying pressure loomed over its head, sending it scrambling backward, rolling onto the sofa in sheer panic. Only then did Baji notice a piece of yellow paper stuck to the side of the flower pot. A talisman, and one far more terrifying than the ones on the doors and windows. If it dared to so much as touch that flower pot, it would die instantly. As it retreated to a safe distance, the overflowing lightning from the talisman gradually withdrew. Ha! I was too naive. Baji lifted its head at a dramatic 45-degree angle, gazing toward the ceiling. Like this big shot would ever let me eat something so valuable. Shaking its head in self-mockery, it continued gnawing on its unfinished Sao Hei duck. Still, as long as the 9-turn spirit orchid was around, this place would soon become a cultivation sanctuary. The entire room would be infused with spiritual chi. Ordinary rice would transform into spirit rice, Sao Hei duck would become spirit black duck, and even a pet fish could eventually gain sentience. Sure, the food might still taste like crap, but at least it'd be crap-flavored chocolate now. With that comforting thought, Baji ate even more enthusiastically. Breaking news. A wild wolf spotted on Tianmen Mountain. Authorities have intervened to ensure tourist safety. While scrolling through Douyin, a short news video caught Chen Huaian's attention. What do the experts say about this unusually large wolf? Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Wang, honorary canine specialist from Xi Province Agricultural University. Some have speculated that this Tianmen mountain wolf is a monster. Haha, let's not entertain such nonsense. This wolf is merely a mutated creature due to consuming polluted seawater. While it appears large, its physical coordination is actually quite poor, making it far less aggressive than normal wolves. Chen Huaian's lips twitched as he watched the old white-haired professor confidently spout nonsense. Less aggressive. If that thing was less aggressive, then why the hell did it tear apart a van like a chew toy? That said, the past decade had indeed seen the rise of many mutated creatures. It all started 10 years ago with a catastrophe so outrageous it angered both heaven and man. At the time, people didn't take it seriously, until the effects of seawater pollution became impossible to ignore. Mutated creatures were just one of many consequences. There had been rumors that the chickens used in fast food were genetically modified to have extra legs and wings, but those had always seemed like urban legends. Now, chickens with 3 to 5 heads were a reality. Previously, such creatures only existed in labs. Now, even regular poultry farms occasionally produced multi-headed chickens. And not only did these mutated chickens survive, they actually had longer lifespans. Worse yet, each head had its own independent thoughts, meaning they often fought each other. Rarity breeds value. Though their safety for consumption remained uncertain, some places had already started treating multi-headed chickens as a luxury delicacy. Certain farms had even begun intentionally breeding them. Like most ordinary people, Chen Huaian firmly believed that mutated creatures were a disaster waiting to happen. For now, at least, they were still manageable. As long as bullets could kill them, there was no immediate threat. But once these creatures evolved beyond the reach of gunfire, the truth would no longer be something the authorities could suppress. Then again, Chen Huaian figured he wouldn't live to see that day. After all, he wasn't going to make it past this year. And once he was gone, who cared if the world drowned? Good thing that girl arrived just in time. She pulled out a pistol and shot the wolf dead. By the way, I have to complain about San Guang's van, absolute garbage quality. I barely shut the door and the whole thing fell off. What? You mean that young-looking girl was actually a police officer? No wonder she had a gun. I thought she was a middle schooler, haha. Oh, isn't that Director Zhang? The screen cut to an interview with a middle-aged man, and Chen Huaian grinned dumbly. The other wolf was struck by lightning, thank the heavens. If not for that, 3 of our crew members would have been dead. Several photos of a charred crater appeared on screen, showing the lightning-blasted remains of a mutant wolf, reduced to charcoal. As Chen Huaian shoveled rice into his mouth, he suddenly froze. That crater, something felt off. The thunder he heard that night. That familiar lightning-scorched ground. And the missing Thunderfire talisman. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a few crumpled Thunderfire talismans, staring blankly at the red cinnabar inscriptions. Carefully, he laid out 7 of them on the coffee table. Then, cautiously, he poked one with his finger. After a long silence, he muttered, "Number way, these are real talismans." Chapter 74. Is this plant really suspicious? Since childhood, Chen Huaian had always prided himself on being sharp-minded. Some people might remain oblivious to subtle bodily changes. But not him. The moment he felt something unusual, he knew, the truth was clear. Cancer cells, the most mysterious of all cells, had activated his genetic potential, turning him into a castrated version of Superman. Sure, he couldn't take down a wolf with a single hit. But thanks to his regeneration, he could last at least 30 seconds longer than a normal person in a fight against one. That, in itself, was extraordinary power. And now, his sharp mind recalled certain details from the previous night. First, where had that girl found the talisman? From what he gathered, it had been near the mutant wolf's corpse. Second, the power and effects of this talisman were identical to the Thunderfire talismans in the game. Third, there was something off about the wolf's corpse. If it had been struck by lightning, the head or back should have been the most damaged. But in reality, it was missing its left leg, blown off as if it had stepped on a landmine. Putting these 3 clues together made things intriguing. It was highly likely that, in his panic while escaping, he had accidentally dropped 2 talismans, and the mutant wolf had stepped on one. That thunderclap he heard, it wasn't just a coincidence. The wolf had been blown apart by his own talisman. Mystery solved. Even Conan himself would have no choice but to kneel before this deduction. Which meant, right now, there were 7 ticking C4 bombs just sitting on his coffee table. Chen Huaian instinctively backed away. Wait, if these things exploded randomly, they'd have gone off already. Maybe I'm just overthinking. He had already told the cleaning lady not to tidy his room, especially since he had a cat hiding in there. But the cleaning lady still came by occasionally to clean the other rooms. If these talismans required specific conditions to activate, it meant they had a trigger mechanism. And how were talismans used? You threw them. Chen Huaian's eyes lit up. Excited, he grabbed the talismans, threw on some clothes, and rushed out the door. Not long after he left, the door to room 419 creaked open. Perfect. That pretty boy finally left. Lin Lingling peeked out, scanning the empty hallway, a gleam of excitement in her eyes. She had been waiting for Chen Huaian to leave. Now was her chance to investigate his room, maybe she could uncover some clues. The door, no way in, which left only one option, the window. With a nimble flip, Lin Lingling climbed out of the hallway window. It was just past 6 a.m., and the streets were already bustling with early commuters. But she moved fast, barely touching the air-conditioning units as she hopped gracefully toward Chen Huaian's window. Not a single pedestrian noticed her. Outside room 418, a yellow talisman was stuck to the window. It radiated a majestic, righteous aura, a silent warning. Intruders will be executed without mercy. Lin Lingling froze. So cautious. He actually knows how to use talismans. Peering through the window, she saw nothing unusual inside. Well, except for one thing. Who the hell plants ordinary grass on a windowsill? And why use such gaudy, multicolored soil? Something wasn't right. She stared hard at the seemingly ordinary grass. As a martial artist, her eyesight far surpassed that of normal people, allowing her to see details that others would miss. And what she saw made her gasp in shock. The veins of the grass leaves were etched with intricate patterns. Winding corridors, high-reaching eaves, each structure embracing the terrain, interlocking with one another. Lin Lingling's eyes widened. She even forgot to breathe. On those delicate grass leaves, there was an elaborate, hidden depiction of a celestial palace among the clouds. If not for her perfect angle under the sunlight, she wouldn't have noticed at all. Did he carve this? No, impossible. She immediately rejected the idea. There were no carving marks. Every single brushstroke was naturally formed. It was as if this plant was born this way, as if it was meant to grow with such magnificent, intricate leaves. This was definitely no ordinary plant. But what exactly was it? Even with her current level of strength, she couldn't tell. To truly uncover its secrets, she'd have to hand it over to the Demon Slayer's Bureau. But, even if there was no talisman blocking her, she wouldn't dare. First, stealing was immoral. She was already considering breaking into his room, she couldn't steal from him too. Second, what if this pretty boy was actually a big shot? If she only took a look, the worst she'd face would be crippling humiliation. But if she stole something, she might end up scattered into ashes. She still had a long life ahead of her. She hadn't yet seen the full extent of the world. She had a dream, one day, she would soar through the skies on a flying sword. So breaking a leg was fine, but losing her life was not. Fine, if I can't get in, I'll find another chance later. Just as Lin Lingling prepared to leave. Hiss. A chilling snarl erupted. Her back went cold. It felt as if she had just fallen into an icy abyss. Her neck stiffly turned, as if controlled by an unseen force. And then she saw it. A black cat had silently appeared on the window ledge, its golden eyes locked onto hers. It was staring at her. The way a predator watches a helpless mouse. That growl just now, came from the cat. The sound was like steel scraping against shattered glass, sharp, violent, and filled with an urge to destroy everything. With slow, deliberate steps, the black cat advanced. Its movements were elegant, but domineering, like a king surveying its domain. The shifting sunlight elongated its shadow on the wall behind it, distorting into a massive, monstrous shape. A demon. Lin Lingling's pupils shrank. She had no idea what level of demon it was, but its aura alone was so overwhelming that she couldn't move. So this guy lived with this thing. How did they coexist? She had no time to think. The black cat suddenly raised a paw. Boom! It slammed down violently. Buzz! A shockwave of black ripples exploded outward, lashing at Lin Lingling like a whip. Regaining control of her body, she tried to retreat, but it was too late. An overwhelming force slammed into her, twisting her insides into a chaotic mess. Her foot slipped, and she fell from the windowsill. Baji peered out the window, keeping a safe fist's distance from the yellow talisman. It snorted at the girl lying motionless on the awning below. Tired of living, are we? You dare covet the boss's spiritual plant. Too bad I can't touch you. Otherwise, you'd be dead. It was displeased, but there was nothing it could do. Glancing at the flower pot, where the talisman's lightning flashed ominously, Baji quickly hopped off the windowsill and curled up on the sofa. To the great Tao comprehending master, it was nothing more than a cat. And so, it would play the role of a cat. If its true nature was ever exposed, it would die a horrible death. Meanwhile, Chen Huaian arrived at an isolated corner of the square. He wasn't heading to the old man's usual training spot. Not yet. First, he had to test whether these talismans actually worked. Chapter 75, Am I using the wrong stance? If I blow a hole in the square, how much would I have to pay? Chen Huaian stared at the grassy field in deep thought. He wasn't exactly broke right now, but he doubted he had enough to cover that kind of damage. Is there anything I can blow up without having to pay for it? After pondering for a while, he made his way to a nearby garbage dump. The place was nearly overflowing with trash, and the collection truck hadn't arrived yet. Since it was all garbage anyway, blowing a hole here shouldn't be an issue. Alright, here goes. His eyes sharpened as he took a deep breath, reaching into his bag. With his index and ring fingers, he pinched a Thunderfire talisman and yanked it out. View. The talisman flew about half a meter before flopping weakly to the ground. Chen Huaian. No, wait. Maybe it needed an incantation. He picked up the talisman and shouted, "Wah! By the decree of the heavens." View. The talisman flew half a meter and flopped down again. Was the incantation wrong? Chen Huaian frowned and tried again. Condense. Go. Fly, you fool. Purple zap. Adoken. Kai Bai Ni. Sabin. One by one, the talismans all flopped lifelessly to the ground. Chen Huaian fell into deep contemplation. No, this didn't make sense. In the game, he never chanted anything. So the problem wasn't the incantation. That meant, his stance was wrong. How did immortals throw talismans? He tested different poses. The shot put spin, the javelin throw, the poker card flick, the salt bay sprinkle. Nothing worked. Ha, I was too naive after all. He tilted his head back at a melancholy 45-degree angle, staring wistfully at the sky. With a self-deprecating chuckle, he muttered, "There's no such thing as talismans. No such thing as the cultivation world. It's all just the delusions of a terminal cancer patient." A stray dog trotted past, sniffed at his shoe. Its face changed instantly. With a terrified whimper, it bolted like it had just seen a ghost. Chen Huaian blinked, then suddenly had a revelation. Back then, the talisman only activated when it landed on something alive. So just throwing it wasn't enough, he needed a specific target. But what should he use as a target? Baji's face immediately popped into his mind. Back in the room, Baji was curled up on the sofa, dozing off. Suddenly, it shivered violently. A bone-chilling sense of doom washed over it, from head to tail. It whipped its head around, scanning for danger. Nothing. And yet, it knew, someone had just harbored a murderous intent toward it. No, Baji is too cute. Chen Huaian shook his head. I can't go around abusing animals. The ominous presence around Baji suddenly vanished. I'll just buy a fish at the market later. That seemed like the most ethical solution. He was going to eat it anyway, so technically, it wasn't cruel. Besides, normal fish preparation involved descaling and gutting. If the talisman worked, it'd just zap the fish into instant charcoal, a quick and painless death. With his conscience cleared, Chen Huaian cheerfully jogged to where the old man practiced martial arts. Sure enough, the old man was there. Yo, kid, you didn't show up yesterday. I thought you were just on a 3-day hype train. Old man Li's murky old eyes brightened up at the sight of Chen Huaian. He had actually felt a little disappointed when the kid didn't show up. Ha ha ha, no way. Something just came up yesterday, Li Lao. Chen Huaian propped up his selfie stick and opened the game. The moment the screen loaded, his nose nearly spurted blood. Inside the game, Li Qingran had changed into the newly purchased sleepwear. Perfect fit. She sat on the edge of the bed, her cheeks red like crushed cinnabar, the blush spreading down to her slender neck. Loose strands of hair framed her face, partly covering her ears like red jade hidden in black silk. She puffed up her cheeks and blew at her bangs, revealing a smooth forehead. Her delicate collarbones were exposed, forming tiny pavilions amidst soft jade mountains. Beneath them, a small jade pendant rested against the skin, a green phoenix on a red string, resembling plum blossoms on snow. Her waist was slender, barely a handful. Under the dim candlelight, her tiny feet swayed slightly, making her graceful curves shift ever so gently, like a breeze stirring the night. And those feet, those dainty little feet. Oi, kid, what the hell are you looking at? It's pitch dark. Chen Huaian jerked back to reality, instinctively slapping a hand over the screen. With an awkward laugh, he stammered, "And nothing. Just reviewing exam materials." "Ahaha, ahahaha. At least you're responsible. My grandson's your age, but all he does is start businesses, lost 20 million and still wants to start another one." Old man Li sighed, rubbing his temples. Chen Huaian's eyes lit up. "Wait, Li Lao, what did you just say? About my grandson starting a business?" "No, the last part. That he lost 20 million. Yes, exactly." Chen Huaian beamed with 99% shameless flattery. "Li Lao, entrepreneurship is a heavy burden. Having your grandson carry it alone is simply too cruel. Why not count me in? Well, it's not impossible, Old Man Li waved a hand dismissively. But my grandson took out loans for it. Chen Huaian, let's just stick to martial arts. Back to practice. Chen Huaian forced himself not to look at Li Qingran. Instead, he checked his Green Lotus sword manual progress, and was immediately dumbfounded. The first 12 chapters of the sword techniques had all reached 99% comprehension. Just a little more, and they would break into the next stage. Even more shocking, the first move, breaking waves with the long wind, and the second move, sword light unleashed, were already unlocked and ready for training. What the hell? What happened? Chen Huaian was completely stunned. He didn't remember practicing any of these. How did they all level up on their own? Had he been training in his sleep? Kid, I see you're pretty interested in swordplay. While Chen Huaian was frantically clicking around, trying to find answers, Old Man Li smugly spoke up. I went home and studied your stance from last time. Turns out, it was actually a sword technique opener. So I dusted off my old Tai Chi sword skills. What do you think? Wanna learn from this old man? Chen Huaian narrowed his eyes. Wait, Old Man Li, are you actually good at swordplay? Ahem. Old Man Li lifted his chin. Not to brag, but probably the best in the province. Whoa, that's insane. Old Man Li beamed, slapping Chen Huaian's shoulder. I guarantee, kid, one look at my swordplay, and you'll be begging to call me master. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 76. What? Sword Chi. Seeing Old Man Li hype himself up so much, Chen Huaian couldn't help but feel a bit excited. Watch closely, kid. My swordplay is crazy stylish. With that, Old Man Li got into position, executing a full Tai Chi sword routine, starting slow, then gradually picking up speed, only to slow down again. As expected of an old-timer, his swordsmanship was solid. At least, to Chen Huaian's untrained eye, that's all he could really say. Old Man Li's movements were graceful and fluid, clearly the product of years of practice. Everything flowed seamlessly, without the slightest awkward pause. It even looked like it could be used in an actual fight. But something still felt off. He couldn't put his finger on it, but some movements felt unnecessary, like they could be removed or replaced with something more efficient. Of course, he wasn't some grandmaster, so he didn't dare critique. Well, feels swordy enough for you. Old Man Li stroked his beard, confidently sheathing his sword, his face practically glowing with pride, already prepared for Chen Huaian to shower him with a 3,000-word essay of praise. It's good. Very swordy. Chen Huaian gave him a big thumbs up. Old Man Li's smile immediately dropped. What, you think my swordplay's lacking or something? No. Realizing the misunderstanding, Chen Huaian scratched his head awkwardly. Li Lao, I actually feel like I had some breakthroughs recently. How about you take a look? Alright, but if I see flaws, I won't hold back. Sounds good. Let me borrow your sword. Chen Huaian took the sword, steadied his breath, and closed his eyes for a moment. His stance sank into a solid horse stance, his form shifting naturally into the crane stance from the Green Lotus sword manual. The instant he took position, Old Man Li, who had been prepared to critique harshly, suddenly widened his eyes in shock. One day. It had only been one day. Yet this kid felt like an entirely different person. Not only was his leg fully recovered, but just 2 days ago, he had still been a complete beginner. But now, his movements were flawless, his entire body moving as one unified entity. Most importantly, he had Shen. Modern martial arts were often mocked for being flashy and impractical, precisely because they focused only on form, neglecting Shen, the spirit of the technique. True mastery lay in the balance of form and spirit. And Shen was far more important than form alone. Why did ancient soldiers drill the same thrusting motion endlessly? Because through sheer repetition, they could break through their limits, understanding how to strike with maximum power, where to target for armor penetration, and how to react instantly in combat. The moment that movement became second nature, when it no longer required thought, that was the birth of Shen. The best warriors forged there, Shen, through battle, refining their techniques until a single perfected strike could command a 100-man battalion. A general was simply a warrior who had mastered multiple Shen techniques. As Old Man Li pondered this, Chen Huaian had already completed the first 12 chapters of the Green Lotus Sword Manual. At first, it was just individual stances. But gradually, the moves flowed together, forming a seamless display of strikes, thrusting, slashing, sweeping, every motion clean and decisive, with no wasted effort. For a moment, Old Man Li could see it. A swordsman in white, moving like a drifting dragon, swirling through the air with carefree elegance. A sword in one hand, a jug of wine in the other, wild and unrestrained. This is impossible. Old Man Li was utterly dumbfounded. This kid wasn't some novice. He was a master. No, even the masters he had seen before had never displayed Shen in so many techniques at once. Most so-called masters only managed to embed Shen into 2 or 3 moves, and that alone made them famous. But this kid, who the hell was he? Suddenly, the flowing sword movements halted. Chen Huaian stood tall and unmoving, eyes closed, his sword returning to its sheath. His left hand held the scabbard, his right hand resting on the hilt. A breeze swept past. The air shimmered with sharp energy. A shooting star, white-feathered, sheathed at my waist. A sword blossom, autumn lotus, its radiance unleashed. The moment he finished speaking, Shing, Old Man Li couldn't even see the sword move. All he saw was a silver arc of light, gleaming in the morning sun. The light fractured, scattering like a blooming autumn lotus. A faint hissing filled the air. And then, the petals of that illusory lotus began to shatter, fading into nothingness. With a sharp clang, Chen Huaian's sword returned to its sheath. Old Man Li stood there, speechless. His throat felt dry, unable to form a single sound. His mind buzzed, overwhelmed. Was that a sword technique a young man should be capable of? That autumn lotus bloom, was that sword energy? How much raw power and speed would it take to pull that off? How many years of experience did it take to reach this level? Chen Huaian, however, simply frowned at the old poplar tree in front of him. Not good enough. His goal had been to cut off a tree branch. Sure, Old Man Li's sword wasn't sharpened, but even a kid could lop off a branch with enough force, right? Yet the branch still swayed in the wind, completely untouched. Forget it. It's just game mechanics anyway, looks good enough. He had already figured out the reason behind his progress. That VR helmet he had worn must have directly mapped the sword techniques into his neural pathways. That was why everything felt so natural today. A glance at the time, almost 9 a.m. He still felt fine, but apparently, that sword routine had taken quite a while. Li Lao, it's getting late. I need to stop by the market, so I'll head out first. He stuffed the sword back into Old Man Li's hands, pried his fingers open to secure the sheath, and turned to leave. It wasn't until long after Chen Huaian had disappeared that Old Man Li finally snapped out of his daze. Without a word, his expression turned grim as he approached the poplar tree. He didn't look at the branches, he ran his hand along the trunk, feeling for something. A moment later, his fingers found a deep, thin groove in the bark. So thin, as fine as a strand of hair. If he hadn't touched it, he might have never noticed it. Old Man Li's breathing stiffened. His muscles tensed. He walked around the tree. And on the other side, he found another identical cut. The sword had sliced through the entire trunk. His hand trembled as he reached for his phone, dialing a number. A rough, smoky voice answered. Yo, Old Li, haven't heard from you in ages, forgot about your old pal. Old Man Li ignored the joke. Old Peng, I need you to brace yourself. I just met a kid. He can use sword chi. What? The voice on the other end skyrocketed 8 octaves. Are you sure? Dead sure. Old Man Li stared at the poplar tree's cut, voice quivering. Right in front of me. Swish, one sword straight through. Stay there, don't move. I'm coming over from the Demon Slayer's bureau, now. Chapter 77. Is Chen Huaian a ticking time bomb? Amitabha, boundless longevity and fortune, Amen. Benefactor fish, this humble one knows that you have already taken on a demonic form. To prevent you from bringing disaster upon the world, today, I shall uphold the will of the heavens. Chen Huaian bowed 3 times to the still-living 10-pound big-head carp on the cutting board. Then, he took out a thunderfire talisman tied to a clothes-drying rod, precautionary measures to avoid blowing off his own hand when activating it. My apologies. As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Huaian pressed down on the drying rod, his eyes flashing with determination. He silently recited, by the mandate of the heavens, so it shall be. Snap! The big-head carp flopped once on the cutting board, its eyes widening. Nothing happened. Chen Huaian fell silent, tilting his head at a dramatic 45-degree angle to gaze at the ceiling, his expression full of melancholy. I knew it, cultivation is nothing but an illusion. Becoming a superpowered tumor warrior is the only path forward. At the dining table, Baji stared blankly at Chen Huaian's bizarre behavior, utterly confused. What is this guy doing? Using a thunder talisman to kill a fish. As expected of a big shot, he's rich. But why isn't he holding the talisman directly? Oh, I see now. Chen Huaian smacked his forehead. You have to hold the talisman in hand to activate it. All right then. Steeling himself, he grabbed the thunderfire talisman and pressed it directly onto the fish. The fish thrashed violently. Nothing happened. Chen Huaian. Baji. The black cat couldn't comprehend it. If this guy really wanted to kill the fish, why wasn't he infusing the talisman with spiritual qi? Did he not know that activating a talisman required spiritual qi infusion? All set trigger talismans work the same way. They either triggered automatically when sensing demonic aura, killing intent, ghostly energy, or malicious intent. Or the user had to manually activate them with spiritual qi. Could it be, this guy doesn't know that? No, impossible. This is a trap. Baji stared at Chen Huaian's back, as if he could see a sinister, scheming smile on his face. He must be pretending. He's baiting me to reveal my identity. The moment I expose myself, I'll be slaughtered. I don't want to die. Baji took slow, cautious steps backward, retreating into the shadows. It was done. The fear was unbearable. When would this paranoid nightmare finally end? Only spiritual qi brought it some measure of comfort. It had already done its best to learn the ways of a cat, but pretending to be an actual house cat required far too much effort. At any moment, it could slip up and reveal itself. Like just now. Forget it. I really am just a superhuman. A mere superhuman. Chen Huaian shook his head, sighed, and found a basin to hold the big-head carp. He filled it with water and placed the whole thing on the windowsill. The basin was a bit small, leaving half of the fish's tail sticking out. But beggars couldn't be choosers. At least it was still alive. Baji, such a big fish, and you're not interested. He turned to look at the black cat in surprise. Ever since Baji recovered from its injuries, it had been acting incredibly suspicious. Almost like a paranoid madman. Baji stiffened at his words, then scrambled onto the windowsill and started licking the fish's tail like crazy, all while sneaking glances at Chen Huaian's face. Chen Huaian, this cat, was not normal. Shaking his head with a chuckle, he decided to ignore both the big-head carp and Baji. He also failed to notice. The spiritual qi from the 9-turn spirit orchid was slowly seeping into the room, permeating his skin. It became nourishment for both his cancer cells and his normal body cells and bones. Baji was actively absorbing spiritual qi. The previously half-dead fish near the flower pot was calming down and no longer flipping belly up. Subtle changes were happening. Chen Huaian simply opened his virtual girlfriend game. He could finally teach Li Qingran how to practice swordsmanship. Under a poplar tree, a burly middle-aged man with a scruffy beard scanned the surroundings anxiously. Lao Li, where's that young man you mentioned? He said he was going to the market. By now, he's probably already bought his groceries and gone home. The bearded man panicked. Then why didn't you keep an eye on him? Old man Li rolled his eyes. You told me to stay put. How was I supposed to keep an eye on him? You think I can clone myself? The bearded man opened his mouth but sighed in resignation. Fine, let's check the sword marks first. Old Man Li led the way as they circled the old poplar tree, once, twice, over and over again. Finally, they stopped beneath the tree, staring at the trunk in stunned silence. It seemed like they were struggling to process what they were seeing. After a long moment, Old Man Li turned to the bearded man. Well, what do you think? The bearded man's face darkened. Hard to say. Hard to say. Yeah, I'm only at master rank, what the hell do I know? So you're saying this kid's sword strike was beyond soldier rank? The bearded man fell silent. Old Li, seeing his constipated expression, also fell into silence. General rank. Unthinkable. Even soldier rank was already ridiculous. Old Li, remember last year when Wang Laohu poached someone from our province? The bearded man's eyes flickered with recollection as he rested a hand on the tree trunk before continuing. That kid was originally a video content creator, just messing around with old-school sword techniques for fun. But when spiritual chi revival hit, those sword techniques suddenly became second nature to him overnight. When he was tested at the Demon Slayer Bureau, he immediately ranked top-tier master rank. I heard that this year, he's already at soldier rank and has taken care of more than a dozen high-difficulty cases. His fame is skyrocketing, but even so, he can barely unleash sword chi. The power of his attacks. Honestly, it's not even as good as when he just swings the sword normally. I know, that ungrateful bastard. Old Li snorted, clenching his fist, eyes flashing with anger. He would never forget that betrayal. Wu hating. He had personally guided that kid in comprehending sword techniques. But the moment he saw an opportunity for more money, he abandoned them, letting the neighboring province's Demon Slayer Bureau snatch him up. C Province's Demon Slayer Bureau had invested a ton of resources in his training, only for another province to reap all the rewards. As a result, their department had been struggling for the past 2 years. Not enough high rankers, poor performance, sluggish response times to cases. Sometimes, they even had to beg headquarters to send reinforcements from other regions. The embarrassment was secondary. The real tragedy was the number of civilians killed by monsters because they lacked a high-ranking slayer. If they had even one soldier rank expert, things wouldn't be this bad. That's why, Old Li, we must bring this young man into the Demon Slayer Bureau. The bearded man grabbed Old Li's hand, speaking with urgency. Last month, we lost several good kids. Right now, there are fewer than 20 active demon slayers left. I can't promise anything. Old Li sighed, shaking his head wearily. I get why you're desperate, but we can't rush this. First, I don't even know where he lives. Second, I've only met him a few times. I have no idea what kind of person he really is. If this kid has truly mastered sword chi, none of us combined would be a match for him. Have you forgotten about that rogue awakener back in year 31? Look how much slaughter he caused. We still haven't caught him. And why? Because we underestimated the risk, overestimated his humanity, and misjudged his ambitions. The bearded man fell silent again. He couldn't deny it. With their current capabilities, they wouldn't be able to control an awakener who had fully mastered sword chi. Sure, guns and explosives could still threaten most awakeners. But once someone reached master rank, they developed an instinctive danger sense, making them significantly harder to shoot. Soldier rank awakeners. As long as they weren't caught in heavy gunfire, they could use cover and survive most firearm attacks. And general rank. They could parry bullets with a sword. I get it. The bearded man took a deep breath. I was being impatient. Old Li, here's the plan. You keep in contact with that young man. Find a way to test his character. If he checks out, we can slowly introduce him to the Demon Slayer Bureau and feel him out. Sounds reasonable. Old Li nodded. Since Chen Huaian was interested in sword techniques and ancient martial arts, he figured the young man would eventually return to this place. They'd have another chance to meet, and when that happened, he'd try to find out where he lived. That way, tracking him down later would be easier. With their discussion over, the bearded man hailed a cab back to the Demon Slayer Bureau. But he barely sat down before his phone started vibrating. Glancing at the caller ID, he immediately answered. "Boss, we have a situation." The voice on the other end was frantic. "A civilian demon slayer just reported that there are suspected Grade A monsters in Tianfu City, TWO of them." 2 Grade A. The bearded man's face changed. His fist clenched. "Got it. I'm coming back immediately." He hung up. Through the taxi window, he looked at the towering city skyline. His brows furrowed. Outside, the streets were bustling, cars honking, pedestrians rushing to work. None of them knew that their world was on the brink of chaos. Neon lights flickered. Ghosts roamed the streets at night. In North America, evil spirits ran wild. In Europe, entire regions had become hunting grounds for vampires and werewolves. Sometimes, he missed the old days, when he was just an office worker. Sure, back then, life was dull. He was nothing more than an NPC background character. But at least he never had to worry about getting killed at any moment. The world had changed, and monsters were appearing more and more frequently. Chapter 78. Damn, is this Lingxi Valley? Qingran, baby, I've already learned a bit of the Green Lotus Sword Manual. I'll turn you into a peerless sword immortal right now. ? Qingran, you've been in the sect for some time now. As your master, it's time I teach you some self-defense techniques. Li Qingran was just about to sit down and cultivate when her master's voice echoed through the void. Master is finally going to teach her a technique. Her heart filled with joy. Yes, master, I will study diligently and never bring shame upon you. She obediently sat on the cushion, hands resting on her knees, back straight. However, she didn't notice how her kneeling posture accentuated her slender waist and curvy figure. Her expectant and admiring gaze made Chen Huaian's heart tremble slightly. These small workshops, truly terrifying. This was the nth time he had marveled at it. ? Today, I will teach you a sword technique, Green Lotus Sword Manual. It consists of 36 chapters and 12 forms. I'll teach you the first 12 chapters and the first 2 forms for now. Why not all 36 chapters and 12 forms? Li Qingran's hands clenched on her knees, a hint of anxiety and eagerness in her eyes. She carefully said, "Master, I will study very hard. I'm not that slow. You can try giving me everything all at once." ? Ahem, it's not that I think you're slow. It's just that this sword technique is very powerful. You need to build a solid foundation first. Rushing won't get you anywhere. Hearing this, Li Qingran calmed down. As long as master didn't think she was stupid, that was enough. Back at Qingyun sect, Taoist Qingshan and Lu Chengtian had often called her dumb and useless. Now that she was following Chen Huaian, she desperately wanted to prove herself. She wanted to leave a good impression. She had been abandoned too many times before. She didn't want to be discarded like trash again. ? Watch closely. I will demonstrate the first 12 chapters of the Green Lotus Sword Manual, then break them down for you. Chen Huaian followed the game's instructions, setting up his phone on a selfie stick. The game automatically switched to recording mode. So, I just need to perform the technique once. A small window popped up in the top left corner of the screen. Inside was a white-haired celestial in black robes, holding a black scale sword, mirroring Chen Huaian's exact movements. Chen Huaian made a monkey reaching for the moon gesture. The celestial copied him perfectly. Oh, right, this is my in-game avatar. Chen Huaian suddenly remembered. He now understood how the game worked. If this weren't a game, Li Qingran wouldn't see him as a bald guy in pajamas, she'd see the white-haired celestial instead. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. The moment the words, "Watch closely," fell, Li Qingran's vision blurred. When she came to, she was no longer in her small wooden hut. Instead, she found herself in a dimly lit, independent space. Though the surroundings were dark, there was a single bright figure standing 5 meters ahead. White robes, a sword on his back, snow-like hair. Her master. Unlike in Qingyun sect, where her master's presence was terrifying and oppressive, here, he felt much closer, more real. Back in the sect, her master was like a god, unreachable and untouchable. But now, he felt within her grasp. Question mark. Focus. Pay attention in class. Before she realized it, her master had already moved to her side. A wooden ruler lightly tapped her head, smack. It didn't hurt, but her face heated up instantly, making her want to crawl into a hole. So fun. The disciple can even interact and get scolded for daydreaming. The expressions are so realistic, too. Chen Huaian laughed as he lightly tapped Li Qingran's forehead with the ruler. Once she straightened up and focused, he finally began his demonstration. A flying sword descended upon Luoxia Peak. A young man named Xuan stepped off, carrying 2 gourd flasks filled with spiritual wine. He had brewed this wine himself, carefully refining it so that 3 parts of its intoxicating properties were neutralized. Now, it wasn't too strong, just a refreshing drink that aided digestion, calmed the mind, and boosted spiritual chi absorption. Senior sister said the new junior sister was placed on the abandoned 10,000 Swords Peak. As her seniors, we should take good care of her, but damn it, I only had 6 flasks, and they left me with just 3. Xuan shook his head and sighed. If he gave 2 flasks to his junior sister, he'd only have 1 left. But giving just 1 seemed too stingy. In the end, pride won over thriftiness. Screw it, I'll just give them to her. She should be at the stone hut at the mountaintop, right? Wait a second, stone hut. Xuan froze, his eyes widening. What the hell, is this still Luoxia Peak? This looked like Lingxi Valley. Where the hell was the stone hut? Instead, there stood a beautifully furnished wooden house, nestled within a bamboo forest. More importantly, there were 10 freshly cultivated spirit fields, overflowing with so much spiritual chi that it was turning into mist. The wooden house sat half hidden among the bamboo, with a gentle stream flowing from deep within the forest, forming a crystal clear pond beside the house. Lotus flowers bloomed on the water's surface, while several celestial cranes flapped their wings, playing in the pond. The clear pool reflects the bamboo grove, lotus petals adorn the pavilion. Xuan muttered in awe. This is what a true immortal's cave residence should look like. Compared to this, my cave is nothing but a dog kennel. But the real question was, how did junior sister set all this up in less than half a day? And what about these 10 spirit fields? Did she have some kind of divine artifact? Xuan glanced at the 2 wine flasks in his hand and suddenly felt hesitant. He was never good at socializing, and now, faced with such an extravagant sight, he felt even more out of place. Forget it, I won't go in. Standing on the stone steps in front of the wooden house, he placed the wine flasks down and turned to leave. But just then, he sensed a faint ripple of Dao aura emanating from inside the house. His face changed slightly. Junior sister has already entered enlightenment. Glancing around, he noticed the house had no defensive formations. Enlightenment is a critical moment in cultivation. It must not be disturbed. I'll set up a concealment formation to prevent any interruptions. Xuan patted his waist. Swish! A black sword shot out, circling the house as he quickly inscribed runes. Within moments, the formation was complete. He then sprinkled a handful of spirit stones at the formation's core. In Sword Pavilion, there weren't many dangers. This formation was merely a polite gesture, a subtle way to signal to others that the person inside didn't wish to be disturbed. Once finished, Xuan nodded in satisfaction. Interesting, interesting. A junior sister arrives, cultivates 10 spirit fields within half a day. This is something everyone needs to see. He grinned, laughing heartily. Then, he leapt onto his flying sword and soared into the sky. Chapter 79. Are they going to take over my house? Question mark. Qingran, the essence of the Green Lotus Sword Manual is poetry, infusing poetry into the spirit. A single word, a single sword. Words can empower sword techniques with greater strength. I see, master. I will remember this. Li Qingran stared intently at the white-robed figure carrying a sword on their back, growing even more certain of one thing: her master must be an unparalleled sword sovereign. This also reaffirmed her previous speculation. Her master had to be the supreme elder of the sword pavilion. Every cultivator from the sword pavilion carried an air of sharpness. Some were like freshly forged blades, brimming with vigor. Others like drawn swords, their edge exposed. Some like sheathed swords, their power concealed. And then there was the pavilion master, steady as a mountain. But none of them possessed an aura as overwhelming as her master's. That was a sword capable of splitting the heavens, an unparalleled, peerless blade. And such a sword needed a perfect sheath to match. She wanted to be that sheath. But right now, she was still far from worthy. 6 full hours. It took Li Qingran that long just to grasp the first 12 chapters of the Green Lotus Sword Manual. She had never encountered such an intricate sword technique before. The seemingly simple foundational movements turned out to be incredibly difficult to string together. Just executing each move correctly had drained most of her spiritual qi. The depletion of her energy and sheer exhaustion made her sway unsteadily. Her entire body felt lightheaded, and all she wanted was to collapse onto the bed and sleep under her master's warm yet imposing gaze. "Wait, master." Li Qingran bit down on the tip of her tongue, hard. "No sleeping. Hang in there." Her master was still teaching her sword techniques. How could she allow herself to lose focus? Qingran, perform the sequence again from start to finish. Then, we'll conclude for today. Tomorrow, I will teach you the first sword stance, riding the wind and breaking the waves. Yes, master. Li Qingran steadied herself, silently cheering herself on before rising to perform the sword dance. Chen Huaian tossed a handful of peanuts into his mouth, watching the screen with an enraptured expression. In truth, Li Qingran had already grasped the basics of the first 12 chapters. He just wanted to watch her perform again. Swish, swish, swish. On the screen, the young girl wielded her Su Xian sword, assuming the crane stance to start. Her light steps and graceful form exuded elegance, her movements smooth and unwavering. Her hand twirled the sword in intricate flourishes, her robes swirling in the air as the shimmering blade gleamed like the season's first snowfall, unpredictable yet mesmerizing. Chen Huaian was completely enthralled, losing track of time. He also failed to notice the exhaustion creeping onto the girl's face. By the time she had completed the 12-chapter sequence, Li Qingran was drenched in sweat. Her sleepwear, already thin and translucent, clung to her skin, giving Chen Huaian an unintended feast for the eyes. "Master, how was my performance?" Li Qingran sheathed her sword, gripping the hilt with her right hand while subtly concealing her trembling legs behind her skirt. She tried to maintain a composed expression, but her labored breathing and flushed face betrayed her exhaustion. A bead of sweat slid from her brow to the tip of her delicate nose, then down to the corner of her lips. The tickling sensation made her instinctively stick out her tongue to lick it away. She could only imagine how disheveled she must look. With her spiritual qi completely drained, her technique had faltered in the last 2 chapters. She had forced herself through sheer willpower, enduring the discomfort to finish. She gazed longingly at the ceiling. She knew her master was watching her, she could feel it. But why had he remained silent for so long? Did he think she performed poorly? Outside the screen, Chen Huaian took a deep breath to calm himself. Not bad. Keep it up. Hearing her master's praise, Li Qingran's lips curled into a bright smile, her heart swelling with joy. It was as sweet as honey. Her fatigue seemed to melt away instantly. This was what she had been waiting for. Nothing mattered more than her master's approval. "Master, I am slow-witted. It took me 6 whole hours to grasp the basics. I'm sure master could have mastered it in half an hour." She leaned against her Su Xian sword, fingers playing with the hem of her robe. Her lowered gaze held a hint of playful mischief. She didn't want Chen Huaian to leave just yet, so she deliberately found something to chat about. "Hey, look at her playing innocent." Chen Huaian wiped a bit of sweat from his forehead. In reality, he had practiced the Green Lotus Sword Manual for a long time. If not for the gaming helmet helping him memorize the basic movements, it would have taken him at least a week to reach teaching proficiency. Ahem, no need to be so modest. 6 hours for an initial grasp is already impressive. Then, how long did Master take? Question mark. Cough, about 15 minutes. Wow, Master is truly amazing. I must work even harder to catch up. Chen Huaian felt his face heat up under her gaze of pure admiration. After exchanging a few more words with her, he quickly made his exit. His stomach was growling after spending so much time watching her practice. Li Qingran didn't press him to stay either. Instead, she obediently went to bathe and change into fresh clothes. She didn't rest. Once some of her exhaustion faded, she immediately sat down in meditation to restore her depleted spiritual qi. Meanwhile, over at Luoxia Peak. Hey, have you heard? The new junior sister got a fancy house and 10 spiritual fields on her first day. What? No way. Have you heard? The new junior sister came with a grand house and 50 spiritual fields. Breaking news. The new junior sister unlocked 100 spiritual fields and built an immortal estate in the span of a single incense stick. Unbelievable. Do you guys know? The new junior sister owns a celestial palace in the clouds, 100 acres of spiritual land, and even captured 2 azure dragons as pets. What? No way. Let's go check it out. Who cares if it's true or not? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, the sound of swords slicing through the air filled the sky outside the window. Li Qingran jumped in surprise. She quickly got up and opened the window to check. The scene outside made her jaw drop. A massive crowd of sword cultivators hovered in the sky, their robes billowing in the wind as they stood on multicolored flying swords, completely surrounding the peak. They were all disciples of the Sword Pavilion, including the Pavilion Master and the Elders. What is happening? Li Qingran's face went pale. Her mind blanked out as she instinctively shut the window and crouched against the wall in a defensive position. Junior sister Qingran, no use hiding. We can all see you. It was senior sister Yu Qianqi's voice. See what? Li Qingran's brain went even more blank. Did they see her master giving her special treatment? Did they see her practicing in her sleepwear? Her sleepwear with little frogs and lotus flowers printed on it. She hadn't even put on stockings. Her bare feet were exposed. Ah, master, this is so embarrassing. No matter how much you hide, your house and spiritual fields won't disappear. Come out. Oh, Li Qingran let out a small sigh of relief. But her heart clenched again. Why were they all gathered here? Considering the Sword Pavilion disciples' notoriously aggressive nature. She nervously pushed the door open, pressing herself against it like a tiny crab guarding its shell, looking up at the sea of floating sword cultivators. She had a very, very bad feeling. Had the entire Luoxia Peak come to confront her? Were they seriously going to take over her house? Chapter 80, The Sword Pavilion's Tradition. The house and spiritual fields were given to her by her master. There was no way she would hand them over to anyone. But since her master was the supreme elder, surely they wouldn't dare try anything, right? Junior sister, why are you guarding that door so tightly? Just as Li Qingran's thoughts ran wild, Yu Qianqi, standing on her flying sword, chuckled and teased, "What's the matter? Afraid we'll tear down your little house and take it over?" The surrounding Sword Pavilion disciples burst into laughter. There was no malice in their laughter, only amusement. Li Qingran, caught red-handed, turned bright red, unable to say a word. Li Qingran, did your master create this house and these fields for you? The one who spoke was the pavilion master, Su Qinian. Li Qingran lifted her gaze for a brief moment before quickly looking away. She mumbled, "Yes, my master arranged it. Master said it's for me alone, the spiritual fields, I'm the only one tending them too." Oh, Su Qinian glanced at the fields, silently astonished. The fertility of these fields was already at the level of high-quality land. Even his own medicinal garden was only about this level, and it wasn't much bigger than what Li Qingran had. Yet, right under his nose, 10 such fields had been cultivated in an instant. Who exactly was Li Qingran's master? There was no way someone could infiltrate the Sword Pavilion without him noticing. They must have used some kind of treasure, but even so, such a feat was practically divine. "Master, Junior sister Qingran is afraid you'll steal her spiritual fields. Yu Qianqi's playful remark snapped Su Qian out of his thoughts. Seeing Li Qingran's wary expression, he rolled his eyes. You think I'm going to tend to your spiritual fields for you? You sure have high expectations. The Sword Pavilion disciples erupted into laughter once again. Li Qingran's face turned an even deeper shade of red. The disciple didn't mean it that way. Su Qian raised an eyebrow. Oh, then what did you mean? Li Qingran shut her mouth, unsure what to say. She had never seen a sect master interrogate a disciple like this before. Su Qian, seeing her at a loss, stroked his beard in satisfaction and said, "You chose this peak for your cave residence. However you develop it is up to you. No matter how extravagant it becomes, it's still yours. Our sword pavilion may not be rich, but we're not so desperate that we need to seize resources from our own disciples." That's right, junior sister. We were just curious and came to take a look. I mean, it's not every day you see such a large spiritual field, Yu Qianqi added with a sigh. If she had a field like this, she wouldn't have to spend money on spirit herbs anymore. She could just grow her own and even sell the excess for a profit. Senior sister, you can plant your herbs here if you'd like. Li Qingran figured Yu Qianqi had always been kind to her, so helping her grow some spirit herbs wasn't a big deal. Yu Qianqi snorted and crossed her arms. I appreciate the thought, but you should use the fields yourself. You're planning to become an alchemist or a healer, aren't you? You'll need these fields. Work hard. Oh, right, here, take this. She pulled a small cloth pouch from her storage bag and shoved it into Li Qingran's hands. These are basic spirit herb seeds. I bought too many last time. You can have them. Senior sister. Li Qingran opened her mouth to refuse, but Yu Qianqi cut her off with a smirk. If you refuse, I'll plant dogtail grass all over your field. Li Qingran. Junior sister, I brought you 2 jugs of spirit wine this morning. Don't forget to take them inside. From his flying sword, Xuan, the senior disciple of Lingyun Peak, waved at her with a smile. You must be the new junior sister, right? I'm Gongsun Sheng, second disciple of Lingyun Peak. A sword cultivator stepped forward, taking out a small device and handing it to her. This is something I crafted. Just infuse it with spiritual qi. And it will unleash 108,000 spirit steel needles. It might save your life one day. Junior sister, I am Genhe, a direct disciple of Hidden Sword Peak. Another sword cultivator, sitting on a celestial crane with his sword across his lap, handed her a small pouch. Inside are 3 hidden sword pellets, each containing my condensed sword energy. They can instantly kill anyone below the foundation establishment stage and heavily injure those at the golden core stage. Keep them for protection. Junior sister, I raise celestial cranes. Here's one for you. Junior sister, I don't have much, so here are some elixirs. Ha ha. Junior sister, this hairpin suits you, take it. One after another, gifts were pushed into Li Qingran's hands until she could no longer hold them all. The pile of items grew so high that even the celestial crane from Zhaola's senior sister had to help carry some. Here, take this. A cool, indifferent voice spoke. Li Qingran peeked out from behind the mountain of gifts and blinked in confusion. The speaker was the ruthless cultivator she had seen earlier, the one who cultivated the emotionless Dao while sleeping on a turtle's back. As expected of someone on the emotionless path, he even talks like he's cutting with a blade. I am Duan Feng, direct disciple of Ruthless Cliff. Duan Feng held out a dark, heavy sword case. His tone was as calm as ever. Joining the sword pavilion means becoming a sword cultivator. Your sword is no longer just a weapon, it is your partner, your kin. Even if it is a wooden sword, you must remain loyal to it until it is no longer usable. Nearly all of our resources go into nurturing and refining our swords. This sword case can temper and restore your blade, enhancing its sharpness over time. It is yours now. I can't accept this, it's too valuable. Li Qingran was already overwhelmed by the sheer number of gifts. She stammered, unsure of what to do. It's just an object. Besides, I have a better one. Duanfeng placed the sword case on top of the pile, perfectly balancing it before turning and walking away. His own sword hung at his waist, its dark, polished blade wrapped in a faint green glow. He was also the only disciple who wasn't floating in the air. When all the gifts had been given, Li Qingran found herself completely surrounded by presents. The celestial crane had to carry some for her. This outcome was far beyond anything she had expected. She had thought her fellow disciples would demand something in return, but after giving their gifts, they simply left, chatting and laughing among themselves. Yu Qianqi helped Li Qingran carry everything into her house. The two of them sat on the cliffside of Luoxia Peak, each holding a jug of Shu An's spirit wine under the moonlight. This is a tradition in the Sword Pavilion. You'll get used to it. Yu Qianqi ruffled Li Qingran's hair with a gentle smile. But, why did they give me so much? Li Qingran was still confused. Wasn't the Sword Pavilion supposed to be poor? One senior even gave her all his life-saving elixirs, keeping only a single one for himself. Yu Qianqi gazed at the moon, eyes filled with sorrow. After a moment of silence, she finally spoke. Junior sister, it's been a long time since we had new disciples in the Sword Pavilion. The path of a sword cultivator is difficult, far harder than in other sects. It requires immense perseverance and countless resources. We don't want to lose another disciple to hardship. Li Qingran might not know the history of the Sword Pavilion, but she could see the sadness in Yu Qianqi's eyes. She reached out and firmly grasped Yu Qianqi's hand, fingers interlacing. Senior sister, I won't die. I'll do my best to live on. And you can't die either, you're our pavilion's senior sister. Yu Qianqi froze, then let out a hearty laugh. That's right. She raised her wine jug, letting the moonlight flow into her drink. As long as I, Yu Qianqi, am here, no one will harm my fellow disciples. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.